of a book by the same name, Get Kids to Play book, authored by two very dear friends, Somil Majmudar, who's co-founder, CEO of Sports Village, and Vijay Krishnamurthy, who's a sports scholar and sports researcher. We'll come to the book in a bit. We have a session on that. It has the learnings and the experiences of Sports Village over the past 20 years, so I think we'll talk about that. But I think the bigger piece also is that book also brings in a context of what we call a practitioner's view, which means how do we engage with the idea of sport, not the why, assuming all of us are here because we care for sport and already know the whys of it. Hows is, I think, where the bigger part of the puzzle, and that's what I think. The summit, of course, offers a shared space for getting the right conversations, right connections, and we felt that sport is now ripe for having these connections and conversations, and the idea of Sports Village being a catalyst to make that happen. In fact, charcha is the right word in Hindi on that, and maybe that captures the whole idea of why this platform. And hopefully the idea of inputs that come from these charchas or the conversations, and how do we now convert these insights into actions. And that's where Sports Village wants to play a role in being the catalyst for that. And this is just a start, and every year we plan to have these conversations, these summits, to bring in more and more ideas and thoughts into the mix, and hopefully work on some of them and keep updating you in the future events, which the next event would be next year again, in terms of what we achieved, and again ask us a question, what next in the whole journey. So for today, I think we for next 2.5 hours, we have at least 3 panels on different aspects using different lenses of these conversations. And we also have award segment. Some of you, I think, in terms of already supporting sports in a big way and are participating, we want to also acknowledge that. And the idea is to get the voice of corporate leaders, voice of funders, supporters, voice of parents, voice of youth, young people who are actually, playing or participating, and of course the schools, which is a very, very important and critical segment for all of us in terms of where all this action takes place. So these are, I think, broad touch points over there. And without further ado, let's play. So let me invite Somil to give his opening talk for this session. So a big hand for Somil Majmudar.
I'm speaking louder. Okay. I can hear my own voice now. Okay. First of all, good morning. I go to school, so the way this works is I say good morning and you say? Good morning. Good morning. Sir, not bolo, please. But first of all, a big thank you for taking time out and being here. Today is, as you can see, also our 21st birthday. So, thank you. We started 21 years ago, 2003, August 31st, as a small place in Bangalore, the idea of getting kids to play. Some of you have asked, so what is Sports Village, what does it do, and so on. So we thought, let me just show you a small film we made, might just hopefully address that. Ishan? The lights are on.
Is very tough. Every day is a new chapter. Every day. The syllabus of a champion is very tough. Every day is a new chapter. Every day, a new exam. Sometimes there are surprise tests. Sometimes challenging group assignments. Just 80 to 90% is not enough. You always have to give 100%. Here the pitch is your classroom. The scoreboard is your report card. And the timer, your toughest exam paper. Here every mistake is a lesson learned. Every setback is a stepping stone. There are no paper leaks. No cheating here. The only thing that matters is your hard work. Here students dream during the day and stay awake at night thinking, how do I get better? The syllabus of a champion is tough. Because the ones who pass it are the ones who are passionate about it. Presenting Sports Village, India's largest school sports organization that is giving every child a chance to play and dream of winning medals for India at the 2036 Olympics. Sports Village, creating champions in life.
Thank you. It took us 21 years to get cumulatively 60 plus lakh kids to play, and our dream is to get 100 million kids to play. It's going to take a long, long time at this rate. We're hoping that as we reach this point and as society has developed and mindsets have changed and well-wishers are there, we find a way to do it faster. As they say in mathematics, find a way to do it logarithmic. It's linear till now, and now how do I make it logarithmic? And this Get Kids to Play Summit is an attempt to kickstart that logarithmic movement. So how do we involve more people into this conversation? How do we understand what's going on, what's coming in the way? In this last 21 years of journey of getting kids to play, we've met so many people. I haven't met a single person who said kids should not play. Right? I'm sure none of you have either. We always get pats on the back, but still not enough is happening. So the question really remains, if everybody wants kids to play, then why isn't enough happening? And that question, and therefore specific solutions, is what we're trying to do with this Get Kids to Play Summit. We found that getting kids to play, to use my favorite phrase, as Vijay knows, everybody's baby is nobody's baby. Getting kids to play has that problem. Everybody loves it. Call it tragedy of the commons from an economics point of view. But it's a classic case of everybody says yes, it should happen, but everybody assumes somebody else will do what is required. Or the problem is so difficult, space, time, the kind of child, the kind of experience, what content, where, and so on, that people give up after the first few attempts. And the book was an attempt to give a toolkit in hands of people who want to make a difference. And flowing from the book was this idea of Get Kids to Play Summits, which we're doing across the country now. To get well-wishers like you, get people who care about this whole experience, this journey, and see what can we come up with. It's meant to be a practitioner's conversation. We're not wanting to discuss why kids should play. We're assuming you're all converted to religion of play and sport. The question is, okay, how do we do more? How do we get more people converted to our religion of play and sport for kids? And that's really the context. Think of Sports Village as a village of people, programs, places and passion. And we are inviting you to this village. Please come and have conversations. We're trying to have more of these conversations. And like with most conversations or charcha, as Parvinder said, we don't know where it's going to lead. It might not lead anywhere. But we are trying to be that, this is my baby. Right? This is our baby. We want to say, this is, if it's nobody's baby, it's our baby. Now, to the extent that we can, we'll push and take it as far ahead as we can. If some other people outside, people here or people you know, want to put their shoulder to the wheel, fantastic. There's so much to be done. So with that, again, thank you again for being here, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the session. We're going to start with the opening conversation around the book. I'm going to invite a few wonderful people on stage for a conversation. At any point, if any of you have stuff to add to the conversation, please do let us know. But to start in no particular order, Amit Paranjape, my dear friend and batchmate from IIT Bombay as well, and also knows a lot more about the history of Pune from a sports point of view as well. Gaurav Natekar doesn't need any introduction. Please. Aditi, please welcome. And last but not the least, Vijay Krishnamurthy, my co-author. Aditi, of course, is a Commonwealth Games medalist, now with Simply Sport Foundation. Please. You want to go on that side? That's okay. Just put it. Okay. Are the mics on? Are they on? So I'm going to request Amit to kickstart it, but as you can see, we have an interesting combination of, let's call it practitioners, sports research. Amit from a larger connections, city of Pune context. Gaurav with, of course, his sports, Gaurav and Aditi with their sports pedigree, but also in the role that they're playing today. And from a sports infra point of view, plus sports management, and now pickleball as one interesting angle. Aditi in the great work they're doing with she's doing a Simply Sport Foundation on getting more girls and women to play. There's an interesting combination of people around elite sports, around girls to play, around innovations in sports, games as a way to do it. So hopefully it's a great conversation. Amit, over to you.
Thanks, Somil. I guess I'm a bit of a misfit amongst all the top sports people here, but I'm a big enthusiast of sports. So I guess that at least that's one thing that will qualify me to be with with all of you. I don't know what kind of introduction I can do for you. As Somil mentioned, we have been classmates, so know each other for over 30 years, and he's been doing this wonderful work of getting kids to play for now over 20 years. It's been his passion since IIT days, and he's delivered on his passion in an amazing way, and is making a huge difference. So once again, I would like to all of us to congratulate him and Vijay for the book and the 20-plus year, 21st birthday that they are celebrating today. So, as Somil mentioned, this is a charcha. So we want to talk about interesting and relevant issues, and we want to hear a lot from experts like Gaurav and Aditi. I'll just ask one question to get this morning discussion started, and that's, since we are here in Pune, I want to understand how much of you know the significance of where we are at. How many of you know where badminton started? I think that's an easy answer. Of course, I can't ask you. Okay, how many of you know where India's Olympic journey started? So I think this many people don't know. So I'll just give you a quick 2-minute story, and then we will get into the book. Pune has been at the forefront of sports in India for over a century. Many people don't know this, but in 1919, there was an active sports tournament practice session going on at the Deccan Gymkhana. And a lot of players were delivering great results in athletics and a bunch of other sports. And Dorabji Tata happened to be there and saw the great performance and said that, why is India not playing at the world stage? So that one thing led to the other, and he essentially sponsored the initiative and lobbied with the British authorities. And long story short, that resulted in India's first team participation at the Antwerp Games in 1920. So Deccan Gymkhana every year, especially every 4 years during Olympics, does celebrate this. But many people living right here, even in Deccan Gymkhana area, don't know about how significant Pune has been to the sports journey of this country. Of course, you know all the clubs around here, and Pune has a long sporting culture, and we have produced great players like Gaurav and Aditi here as well. So you don't need to, Somil and Vijay, you don't need to sell us about the importance of sports and getting kids to play. Of course, the challenges are there compared to when we were growing up 30 years back to today. And that's where the 5 categories that you have talked about in the book are so important. So why don't you talk about those specifically? And more importantly, I think one thing that many people worry about, think about all the time is space. And what's your experience been, and how do you address that particular issue? And then the other 4 as well. I want both of you to talk about it.
Yes. Let me go first. So this whole idea of sports village started with this trying to solve this problem of safe spaces for kids to play. In 2003, we took a piece of like less than an acre of land from a landlord. Somebody told me that I should have just bought the land. I would have made a lot more money in 21 years than doing what we're doing. But we couldn't scale it, Amit. We just couldn't get access to land to get kids to play. Right? Private landowners had their own views back then. Schools had their own constraints. Regulatory issues were there. And that's when we moved from being a noun sports village to a verb, a service organization that we are today. So coming back to your point, and therefore the book essentially tries to cover, both Vijay and I kind of tangoed well. He brings in a lot of research, domestic and international context, and I brought in a lot more practitioners' view of more what not to do than what to do, but whatever is left is what you do once you know what's not to do. So the 5 pieces that we looked at from a structure in the book were, one is space, where do kids play? Right, which is fairly intuitive, and that's reducing with urban context, urbanization, urban planning, spaces are getting encroached. We need different level of civic activism to kind of claim the spaces that are meant for kids to play. Then there's time. What we don't realize is kids don't get time to play. Commute to school, back, homework and so on. So when do kids play? So where do kids play? When do kids play? Then the third is, what do they play? The assumption that everybody wants to or is good enough to win medals is not true, but very often that's a lens that gets applied. And therefore, the 95% of the kids who are not good enough to compete at even a school level get the message that sports is not for them. Because what do they play? The messaging is about, oh, you should play if you're in the school team. You should play if you're... But what if I'm not in the school team? Should I not play? Nobody's answering that question. To say, no, you should still play. Because the only messaging is about, if you're playing to play, win a medal, you're playing to... So where do they play? When do they play? What do they play? Who is playing? Kids are different. A 5-year-old girl is very different from a 12-year-old boy, from a 15-year-old girl. They're very, very different contexts. So who is playing? Forget the athletic ability and all the other contexts, socioeconomic context. There's a whole grid of variables around who is playing. And who is playing has to work with what are they playing, has to work with when are they playing, has to work with where are they playing. And lastly, but most importantly, who is facilitating this whole process? Is it peer? Is it the kids doing it themselves? Is it a PE teacher? Is it a parent? Is it a coach? What lens do they have? If my lens as a parent is to win a medal, I do things very differently than my lens to make sure all kids are playing and having fun. So we found that it's a fairly complex, we just broke it down to 5 variables, but each of the variables has multiple layers. And then how do you all of this have to come together in a symphony, or come together to make a symphony. Otherwise we're having cacophony. The dropout rates of kids from sport are a proof that they are voting with their feet. And it's the adult's responsibility. I think the important thing is it is not on kids to solve it. Adults have to solve it. The school leaders and parents and people around have to solve this problem, because kids can't solve it. How can they solve where to play? How can they solve how much homework they get? How can they solve who they play with? They can't solve it. Adults have to step up, and adults have actually abdicated the responsibility of that particular issue. And that's what we're trying to say from a India or a practitioner's perspective. Vijay, of course, brought in the whole research piece. Vijay, over to you.
Thanks, Amit, and good morning to everyone. I'll just add on to what Saumil was saying. Is even in space, we kept it to a point where it's not about just the sports infra in space. You know, we used to play on the streets.
Right.
So now, even from a civic issue and all of the things that where we actually had open spaces to play. So each of the, we call it the 5 variables, also came from the doctoral study of mine. Is then we started from the street and all the way to landing inside the school compound to play, and way beyond as well. Then you go to private clubs, academies, and all that. So then all the broken pieces is what is addressed throughout the book, and across space, time, and everything. For example, I remember now I'm recalling if the play from the street vanishes, the next thing that I'm seeing, even as a parent, as a coach, I've seen is, at a 5 or 6 year old being directly taken to a club, an academy to start, rigorous sport is not even something we should get into, right? I mean, the amount of free play that a kid should get into, and eventually talent gets spotted and all that, and school also encourages. So for each of the chapters, initially when we wrote it, me and Saumil, it looked like we were saying something extremely commonsensical. And we even thought, is somebody even going to read it? And well, I know most of it kind of thing when we read it. But I think that's where, from a EduSports toolkit, every 3rd or 4th page of the book, we made sure that, okay, if this is the problem we're building into, what is the localized solution that each stakeholder can add value into, right? And as Saumil said, I think as the book goes along, eventually all stakeholders have to get together to make things happen. And another note on time, again, we went into all the the pressure as academics is taking off, smartphone penetration, and these were things that we didn't think of that much at the start of the book, but as we started to write it and we'd done some surveys, we realized that I think there's no space at all. I mean, if I say there's no space in the timetable of a child right now. So school is still our, most aligned with Saumil on this, that school, I think, at least holds a PE period. I mean, that has remained constant from the time when we played till today. But the question is, how much of value? Is it well optimized? Is the curriculum, upgraded? Hopefully we covered, but I'm very sure that the book is just a starting point and there's more to upgrade.
I think excellent starting point. It would be great to hear the perspective of Gaurav. You played at the topmost level. You have coached so many kids. Where do you think these 5 things that the authors are talking about come into play from your perspective?
No, I think what Saumil said, obviously makes a lot of sense. I think that too often, especially in our Indian society, the focus has, and I guess will always be about education. And in the West, sport is looked at as an education. And I think the film captured that as well. And I think until we get that, mind shift, that sport is actually life, sport is education, right? The needle is not really going to move very fast, to be brutally honest. I think all the other, challenges are something that Saumil already said. I think that one of the biggest challenges we have is this paradox of the people or the kids who can afford sport today are mostly from urban cities, but they don't have access to sports facilities, or they don't have the time, or they don't have the inclination. A lot of times the child is keen, but the parent is not. Sometimes, most of the time now, the parents today are pushing their kid when the kid may not want to do it. And that's why you see in any sport today in India, the biggest stars and the biggest achievers are coming from rural India. And that's why I believe it's more important that as a country and the people in the ecosystem need to now focus on going into the rural areas as well. Easier said than done. But I think that is really where all our talent lies. I mean, you look at right from the Olympics to you come down to even the state level. The kids who are performing are not coming from cities like Pune and Bombay and Delhi. They are coming from much smaller cities. And I think somewhere it's obviously not completely the fault of the parents of or the kids, because if you don't have the time or the facilities to play, then what do you do? And like Vijay said, we used to all play gully cricket. We used to play badminton in the street. Certainly in Pune that used to happen. I think today if you can walk 50 meters on a Pune road without twisting your ankle, you'll be lucky. So I think these are all the challenges that are coming with urbanization, coming with the growth of India and all of that. And I think those are really the challenges that need to be addressed.
I think same question to you, Aditi, and then we'll get into more specifics of some of the ideas that Saumil wanted both of you to talk about.
Hello everyone. Thank you so much, Saumil and Vijay, for making me a part of this. I was telling some of my colleagues earlier that I'm quite a junior on this panel, so I'm going to try and kind of still try and make sense of what I'm saying. So I think in terms of my experience with the space, time, and the different spectrums that you spoke about, what I've realized is that when you go into the rural landscape of India, space actually is not an issue. I mean, government schools really actually have as much space as you need, and also actually time in that sense, right? Because the urban and the rural landscapes are completely different. And what I've realized is that the kind of implementation of anything that you want to do has to be localized in India, especially because the culture is very different in, say, a Bihar to what it is in a Bangalore, right? So I think in terms of customizing solutions from and localizing them is something that I have realized with whatever work that we have been doing at the grassroots level so far. I think in terms of and I can maybe bring in some of the women, the girls, kind of outlook here. So I think, like Saumil rightly said, when we go into the rural spaces in India and look at a PE class, it is all about lack of equipment. For example, there is one ball and 40 kids kind of running around it, and in those 40 kids, you will generally have mostly boys running behind that ball, and the girls just don't get a chance because there is just so much of hovering across the ball, and the girls will just kind of go and sit under a tree, and that's what the PE teacher will also actually be okay with, because lag jayega ya kuch ho jayega, and ye ball ek hi hai mere paas and all of that. And then the other pressure on the teacher is of course about creating the teams, because his incentive comes from getting a team who can win a medal, and who and so the incentive structure for people who are running sport in our schools is very, very medal based, and that's why I think the kind of lessons that are planned also by the teacher change, and the whole intention there is not about education like Gaurav was saying, but it is more about how can I build a team and where I kind of get with it. And that's where the girls actually always lag behind, because generally you have PE teachers who are men, and it's kind of an ecosystem which has mostly men there, and they stand a little one distance away because they don't want to, they know that maybe they have some assumptions about how much they're going to be able to push the girls, and will they be able to make a team, will they travel, will the parents send them, there are so many questions there, so they just stay away from that whole piece. So I think from what I've understood till now, it's about localizing solutions and kind of coming to it from a gendered lens as well, if you want more girls to kind of be in the ecosystem.
I think thanks for that perspective. Saumil, you want to drill into?
Yeah. I want to stay with you. It's one thing. Therefore, what?
Yeah.
I think what next? So, right? However small a step, all the constraints you mentioned about or perceptions about girls' sport play. Yeah. Right. What do we do? Are there solutions? Are there suggestions? Are there experiments we should be trying? Yeah. And then publicizing, therefore, larger systems adopted for the work that you do. Is that something there?
Yeah. I think one of the things that we have to understand is that girls experience sport in a different way than boys. Because I think right from the time that they hit puberty, right, their experiences with puberty are also extremely different than boys in terms of how how their body grows, and and some of the biggest dropouts actually happen during that time because they're not very comfortable with their bodies, and they're falling over, or the sense of balance is lost, and so on and so forth. So some of the things that we have been trying to do is to actually make girls aware about these changes of their body and not get scared of it. And for example, menarche, right, the first period is where you see the most of the dropouts that are happening, and there are a lot of misconceptions around it. So I think first is key in terms of creating awareness about these things, that these changes are going to happen and you don't have to stop anything because of that. So we have seen some change on the ground in terms of when we create that awareness, when we start having conversations around female bodies, about things like menstruation and how can you manage that. You see that the coaches and generally the male PT teachers also, they are open to this. They don't lack empathy. What they lack is the knowledge, because they also come from the same society as us, and they have not had these conversations with their wives or their daughters. So you can't expect them to come in school mein, haan chalo period hai kya, to it's okay, khel lo. It doesn't happen that way, right? So I think first step has been to kind of educate and to create that awareness to break those misconceptions. The second piece I feel here, that the way we design sport, on the ground, it is very, very male-lensed. I mean, the way girls are going to enjoy sport, maybe it is a little different than how boys are going to enjoy it, right? I mean, in terms of everything. So, for example, you say, hum aaj ek running race karne wale hain, ya something to do with strength, for example, right? The boys are going to just climb, and they are going to just, push the girls aside, and the girls are going to be, yaar, hamare mein to kuch hai hi nahi, kyun khelna hai? If everything is around winning, and if everything is around how fast somebody is, then the boys are going to triumph, and the girls are not going to be able to match that, especially when they're growing. So I think how we design lessons, and there's a lot of research on this in terms of UK and US, in terms of how we are going to design sport for girls so that they're able to participate, they're able to kind of have fun with it, and the fun part is also missing, right? Because most of the times you're being told that you're not meant for this, right? Or you basically ठीक है, मतलब पीटी कर लो और फिर बैठ जाओ, right? So I think the designing of lessons, the designing of activities is something that is going to be very crucial. The third piece here that I've felt overall is this whole idea of not having clean toilets. I mean, I can't emphasize on this as much as I want to, because having clean toilets, girls just stop coming to school the moment they have their period, because they just don't have water. If there is a toilet, there's no water. If there is water, the toilet is dirty, right? And they're going to catch infections and things like that. So parents will not send them, and that is a problem for participation, and we just don't take it as seriously as we need to, right? The third part is products. Because most of these girls are not going to get the product easily, they again use cloth, or they use things like that, and then the cloth is not going to sustain, and they will stay at home again. So can schools, like we have the midday meal and things like that, can we provide a clean toilet and education and maybe the product, so that the girls are not going to stop coming to school because they are menstruating, right? And this is a solution, right? I mean, I'm hoping that I'm coming to the how of what we can do, and I think the one more thing that I would like to add here is the whole safety aspect. I really think that with sport especially, if we can create safer spaces for girls in terms of how are we talking to them, what are the who are we hiring, right? Being very, very, very clear about that, and being able to also tell the parents about it, like having the conversation with the parents. Because safety, for example, like अभी गाँव में when you go, वहाँ पे infrastructure भी नहीं हुआ, पर ground होता है. There's enough space for them to play. But with that, are we actually giving them safe public transport? Yeah. We aren't, and when that doesn't happen, the ground is just lying vacant. So can something like that, when we think about infrastructure, especially from the girls' lens, can safety of coming and playing in the infrastructure also be considered? So these are some of the points that I think.
Sounds like a social engineering problem. So, Gaurav, we spoke about girls, and clearly that's a large problem, important problem to solve. I also want to ask you about this whole elite sports stuff. I know you also have a context, but I want to ask you right now. Elite sports has this very interesting dichotomy, right? At one level, it's very inspirational. And because of people like you, people want to play tennis and people want to do the best they can and so on. But also at one level, elite sports is killing early sports. Because many people feel, I'll never be as good as Gaurav, so why should I bother? Right? So how do you see elite sports supporting this larger, because if you don't have enough kids play, elite sports is not going to work either, right?
No, I think this is again an age-old problem, which I think is changing. Again, the needle's not moving as fast as it should, because again, because we win so few medals, right? The people who actually, or the athletes who actually win medals are then, put on a pedestal, and rightly so. And then it just becomes all about winning, and all our education, everything, like Aditi said, is geared towards, who wins. And of course, winning is important, but winning is important when you are an advanced ecosystem, or you're an advanced society where sport is concerned. And I think that, we still have some way to go for that. I think in terms of elite sports, there are two things, right? One is that, yes, you're right, especially again in the urban cities where elite sports, let alone becoming a champion, even getting access to an elite sport is a problem, right? Even in a city like Pune, if you want to play a tennis or a badminton, now at least badminton, there are a few more.
Pickleball is coming.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll get to that later. But I think that it is because of challenges like this that, games like pickleball and paddle, and there's a whole bunch of other new age sports that are coming up that I think are going to change the paradigm where sport is concerned, not only in India but globally. So I think just coming back, even with the elite sports, like even in a city like Pune today, if you wanted to play tennis or badminton or football again, there are a few facilities that have come up, but clearly not enough. And I think that is really where the challenge lies. And like Vijay was saying, that it's not about having to play a particular sport. A child can just be active and just go down and play in the building at the age of 4 and 5 and 6, right? In fact, I have been strongly recommending this when parents come to me for advice on their kid, that, the kid is 5 and 6 and 7. I tell them, listen, till the age of 12, he or she should play 2 sports. There should be one team sport and there should be one sport which, he or she is playing alone. So playing alone teaches you to really handle success, failure, you're handling your own problems. And then, of course, playing in a team gets you to, work together as a team. And, then, of course, all those life lessons come in, which I won't get into now. But I think that essentially is why we need to start focusing. And again, this term grassroots, in my opinion, to be brutally honest, is very loosely thrown around. It's become like a fad. I'm doing something, for grassroots. But what is grassroots? Is it just about, going to the villages or going to rural areas, or is it actually about developing a base for sport? And that base could include, setting up better, PE education. It could be getting even basic facilities, right? I mean, Anganwadis, we have millions of Anganwadis in India. I don't even know how many of people here know what an Anganwadi is, but in rural India, one can start with that. It doesn't always have to be that it has to be a fancy badminton, wooden flooring badminton court, or a synthetic surface tennis court. But I think again, it's easy for me and for us to sit here and discuss this. But that movement has to start from the ministry. I think the other big challenge that we face is that we don't have a sports body as such that can take our grievances to the government. There is some things happening in the ecosystem. Like in COVID, I remember when the restaurant shut down, all the restaurant federations went, like in Pune, the restaurant federation went to the Pune Municipal Corporation. I know it happened across the country. People went and met the minister and told them that, listen, we are restaurants. And nobody did that for sport. I mean, even golf was shut. I mean, why would you shut a golf course if there is a social distancing game that defines social distancing, it's golf. So why would you shut golf courses?
Different ways.
In many different ways, exactly, right? So why would you shut a golf course? But that's what frustrated me during COVID is that, you know, all these other industries had bodies which actually went collectively and as a team and got their problems addressed, right? I mean, restaurants opened before some sports facilities, right? So again, that tells you a more social thing, that people actually want to go to a restaurant more than actually want to go and play, which doesn't happen in the West, right? So there are all these different challenges that we have, I think. But to address your question with elite sport, I think yes, at a certain level, it is a problem, but I don't think that is a problem faced only here, right? I mean, now with the advent of TV and so much of sport being shown, I think that again, the people and the organizations in the ecosystem have to ensure that we talk about sport and getting kids to play as an education. I think that really is most important.
Vijay, you want to add? Yeah.
I think great points by Gaurav and Aditi. Pointing to the book, this is one of the reasons we call that middle chapter 3 as, if I remember, child, the central actor at play. And that's how we coined it. We felt like, you know, sport, since it kicks in early, instead of going into the, silo of just physical activity and sport, I felt, because it's a child's development happening, if you think of a K-12 program, right? So, to Gaurav's point, I mean, probably not at the ministry, which seems far-fetched, but the angles of education, health, and sport, sort of how close are those circles are very important. And again, I think education is the key piece there. So, to Aditi's point about even clean toilets and, educating both parents and school leaders on, both gender as well as even children with disability and special children, all that angles. Again, that K-12 program can become the pillar. Because much later is when sport gets specialized and then you go age group and then competitions and state level. But the initial building blocks, which covers all of them, probably address it at primary and middle school. You probably paved it faster than trying to go there and then trying to think you missed something else. So that's one point.
I know we're running short of time. Go ahead, Amit.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how much time do we have?
Let's
Let's
elbow a bit.
Yeah, one quick question to both of them. The first conversation I remember us having 10 years back when we discussed about your initiative. Even I had that misconception that Sports Village is doing something to get people to play sports, and you said no, we are starting something much more upstream of that, which is basic physical education. And I think that is would like to hear both of your thoughts on that, which is playing versus basic physical fitness or basic awareness is where you want to start. How do you, because many parents also have that misconception that, okay, I want to win a medal, or my kid wants to win this competition or this medal. How do you educate them? Let's start with something more basic and then build up on it. And physical fitness, physical education should be part of the education in general, not something which is, something done just for sports and enjoyment. So maybe we can close with that.
Yeah. I have a question for it.
Yeah, so I think again with my experience with schools and the way physical education is placed there. So one of the things that we tried to do when we were working there was when there was report card day, when you're kind of talking about progress of the children, you generally had all the teachers there other than the PT teacher, talking about physical parameters, and I'm like, why not? Why is he giving chai? I mean, unko lao na samne. Get him in the front. Let him tell how your kid is doing on the ground, right? Maybe you learn a few things which might help your kid to do better, right? So I think that was one piece that was something that we tried in terms of, getting the physical education teacher at least the respect and, kind of the dignity to come. Yeah, you have to put them at the same level. He would be just the guy who's getting chai. I mean, I couldn't believe it, I mean, and that happened with us also when we were in school, where my parents never got, my report card में कुछ लिख दिया जाता था कि ये yeah, the child is watching this. The other thing that we tried to do was जब schools में there was punishment, right? The idea of punishment in schools was उठक बैठक, something physical. so at the onset itself, you are saying that doing something, yes, not solve. Why not? Sports class नहीं मिलेगा या PT cancel करो. So again, there is a problem here, right? Because you're trying to tell the kid that anything physical, if you do, it's a punishment. right? So there are such things, that are I think, small things, but they shift the culture of the school. They shift the culture of the parents also, right? The other thing that I think was could be useful is to kind of look at how we can get more parents involved in the conversation, because I think Gaurav was also talking about this, that once we kind of start with sport, the idea is the medal, right? But we have to understand that, like, my parents are here today, and when my also parents started with getting me into sport, it was very clear that either you make it or chhod do. I mean, that is the pressure that you are on if you're good at something related to sport, right? And I think in terms of if we can talk to the parents about why is it important for the kids to be active in wherever they go, and not give them the mobile and do those kind of things, and look at sport as something that is lifelong. That will, especially in the initial stages, like Vijay you saying कि पहले से ही अगर आप culturally ही वो ठीक से set कर दोगे तो आगे जाके आपको problem नहीं होगी. So I think the conversation with the parent also is extremely important.
I'm getting dirty looks from my team, but last question to Gaurav. Gaurav, this pickleball journey of yours is very interesting. Not just because you're kind of also a tennis player instantly, but also because how pickleball seems to me to be a nice innovation of embracing limited space and maybe embracing limited fitness and skills broadly, and kind of evolving a new thing. How are you seeing it? And is that the direction we're going to have more of such innovations?
No, I think people have been asking me, how do you view tennis, having been a tennis player and now into pickleball? So I tell them that, look, if cricketers can start businesses in other sports, there's no reason why I can't start something in pickleball, right? Look, I think pickleball, in my opinion, is, and not only pickleball, I'm sure there will be some innovations, coming down the line as well. And I think these new age games are here to stay. I think specifically with pickleball, I mean, I played with my son this morning. As a family, we are going tomorrow, right? From my nephews and nieces, my sisters and stuff. I mean, we haven't played a sport together in the last
Nobody wants to play
40
with you.
years. No. I'm saying, no. That's what I'm coming to, right? So that's what I'm coming to. So you were talking of. So you were. Let's see. I mean, I think they all feel that maybe at least here they can. Let's see. We'll find out tomorrow. Entry's free, by the way. Anybody wants to come? No. Sorry. No. So I'm just saying that I think that pickleball is a sport which is easily. Why I feel pickleball, in my opinion, is going to be in the top 3 sports in the next 5 years in this country is for 3 reasons. Number one is it's very easy to play, tough to master. 40% women play pickleball, right? So that is a huge number, because when the lady of the house says something, most of the time you got to follow it, right? So 40% women play.
I like your emotional. Very brave.
No, my wife also played tennis for India, as you know. So
of course.
At least on at least on that point we are on the same level. So I think easy to play, tough to master like any sport. 40% women play. Very little space. Like pretty much on this, maybe a slightly bigger podium, you can build a court. So I think infrastructure, what we keep talking about, space, right? I mean, I know for a fact, because we're in the infra business, there's a couple of municipal corporations now where under the flyovers, right, they're actually making pickleball courts, right? And that is where the whole public infrastructure can come into play. So I think that's why I believe that a game like pickleball, or like I said, some other innovations, is going to be in the top 3 sports in the country. And I think again it comes back to the idea of, let's just start moving, right? As a nation, the kids need to start moving. If it means that there is even a pickleball court which is 500 meters from your house, let them start there. And if that leads to tennis or badminton, Sure. And I think that the second big thing is that tennis, badminton, squash, table tennis players find this game very easy to take up, right? And I also looked at it a little bit like, why should I play pickleball? But then I realized that it's actually fun, and it is sport is community, right? It's about community building. With tennis, you need to go to a club. You need somebody at your level to play. Football, you need 10, 15, 20 people. Cricket is the same. Badminton is the same. This is a sport where literally, I mean, me and my son started playing. Obviously, I had a better hang of it, but he's picked it
Really?
up. Yeah, but he's picked it up much
Hey,
quicker.
son is
Both
here,
my
I
sons, both my sons. He's sitting there. My nephew's also there, by the way. So I think that that's why I believe that whatever sport it is, right? And I mean, it's coincidental that I've got into pickleball, but I think whatever sport comes up, I think the parents should just encourage the kids to just go out and play. That time from 5:30 or 6 p.m. to 7:30 should be just to go out and play. Period.
Wonderful. On that wonderful note, thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. We have a small gift for.
Like gully cricket, Cricket is going back and playing gully cricket in a short space.
Guess what? We need to. Oh, we will. Vijay, I'm not giving you a copy.
Thanks.
You want to give it? Why don't you give it to Rajan? You take a photo with the book. Vijay. Vijay.
Hey, hi. Hold on, both of you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks.
Amit, thank you. Parminder, over to you. Thanks, Gaurav. Wonderful.
Thank you, Somil, and the panel. Wonderful session. And can we hear a bigger round of applause for the... Thank you. The larger audience makes me feel like a gladiator now, Proximo, if you remember the movie. Okay, so I think and I will come back with some inputs on this panel, the closing. In interest of time, I'm moving ahead at faster pace. So there are two invisible hands. I mean, provisioning inputs for sport, I think we discussed that, and one hand is the hand of the government, the policymakers, and in providing enough resources at that level. Second half is a private capital, which could be the corporate, the CSRs, and parents, and everybody who wants to invest in sport. So next panel, I think we will try and take this lens on how our people who are supposed to be moving resources towards sport, thinking and doing. And so for this panel, scaling impact through sport. Let me invite the panelists. We have wonderful list of panelists. Leena, Rajan, Deputy National Lead at Bajaj Finserv. She's here with us. Welcome, Leena. We have Neelam Babardesai, Head of Sports at Tata Trust, also domain expert in sports itself. We have Mridul Kataria from Sports and Society Accelerator, Chief of Staff. He's here to talk about the invisible hand of the government, I guess, right? Then we have two corporate leaders. We have Siddharth Deshmukh, who is a leading sports management consultant, and also the founding member of MBA Sports at Symbiosis Schools of Sports Sciences. And we have Deepak Gulati, who is a corporate leader again, and most recently with Bridgestone has done leadership roles in P&G and other large MNCs. Thank you. And I happen to be the moderator, so I will also join them. Thank you. So I think from what I just mentioned, I think we spoke about the markets, we spoke about the government, and in fact these are two entities where scale happens, and we're talking about scaling sports. So governments can, markets can, and we have known examples of that, and the social sector falls somewhere in between, bridges the gap in terms of finding resources, finding experiments, as we discussed earlier. So how do we harness these forces, or how do we use these resources to scale sports? I think would be the central part of the discussion. Unlocking resources is the phrase I would like to use. And we will start with the markets first, no particular order. And I am looking at two gentlemen from corporate, Siddharth, you and Deepak. Let me go with Deepak first in terms of, and we spoke earlier before just coming on the panel, he was speaking about how elite sports tend to attract disproportionate capital. And we spoke about the trickle that happens from there to the grassroots. Gaurav mentioned about grassroots, but let me say community level, school level sports. Let me define that further. And how do we make that trickle into a waterfall? Or is that a red herring, a misleading, misplaced question? You can be open with that.
Hello. First of all, thanks for inviting me here, and good to be here, and good to meet a lot of good, nice, inspirational people and hear them also. Yeah, so is it echoing or is it okay? It's okay? Yeah. So I think your question is about how we get the inspirational elite level of sports
Yeah, so I think there's money going in at elite sports, especially from corporate leaders like you are funding, sponsoring that.
Sure.
How do we get it down?
Okay. So great question and great problem to tackle. How do we make it happen? So I think if we want to kind of get into that, we first need to understand, and I'm speaking more from a corporate standpoint, that's what you want me to do, right? What are corporate objectives? Why are they getting into these activities? How do they benefit? If we understand that, then we can see and figure out how we can make this trickle and waterfall. So generally speaking, corporates or brands associate with sports for a few reasons. The biggest reason I would say is sports have a great ability to build communities, unite people, bring them together. I think as we talked in the last panel also, across age groups, gender, caste, community, etc. So that's a big power of sports. Yeah, to evoke that emotion, that passion. That's one reason. And there are only few things in the world who have that kind of power, and marketeers like to harness that. Any guesses which are the other things from anyone? Music, absolutely. Yeah, movies, music, entertainment, I'll put in the same. Yeah, so I would say music, sports. Then there are other things like religion and politics, but they tend to be controversial. So music and sports are two big kind of areas which create that emotion, that power to bring people together. So that's one important reason. There are other reasons like huge reach of sports. So corporates would like to brands would like to get into sports, to reach a lot of people, or reach a very targeted set of people also. That's also sports enable. Other reasons are values. The values which sports connote: teamwork, passion, perseverance. How do we align those values to our brand? If your brand wants to kind of align to those values, again, they can leverage sports. Then there is things like sports you want to call your people to sports events, so that's how you will do, or CSR kind of activities, right? So if I try to classify corporates, so there are who could be interested in grassroots sports. So there would be these brands who would benefit from a culture of sports. And there will be brands like Nike, Adidas, Decathlon, who will benefit if everybody plays a sport, right? So there doesn't need to be too much of convincing required to go to those corporates and help them or ask them to bring sports to a grassroots level. So one solution is finding those brands and corporates and then working with them, going with some structured programs with clear outcomes. I think it should be a natural flow. Now, are these brands big in India? Probably not yet. But if 2036 Olympics comes, if the culture is moving more towards it, you should see that happening like it's happened in other countries. That would be one. Second kind of corporates, I would say, or brands are who can ride on sports to build that emotional connect, that loyalty. Now, these brands used to be brands like Coke, Pepsi, or a Gatorade, or a Bonvita, or a Milo. But this is an area where there is a bit of controversy now on, are these brands good for health? Do you want your kids to get associated? Several such reasons. So probably that is a declining tribe, or maybe there'll be some health drinks or health products which would come up. That would be another area, I think, if you kind of work with them. Third, I would say, is there are other experts on CSR activities, which is where you want to do some good to the community, and sports could be another way to go there. Yeah.
No, thank you. I have a follow-on, but I'll come back to you in a bit. Let me go to Siddharth now. And Siddharth, you have also spent a good deal of time working with the elite sports platforms. But interestingly, since you also run a football club in Pune, again at grassroots level, is that a way? So how do you see this conundrum that there is investment at top, not as much at the bottom? And is that a way to tap into that spend, or how are you viewing this, sir?
Yeah, thanks for firstly, thank you and wish you a very happy birthday to the whole team who is sitting here. It's a commendable journey of 21, so you're probably now legally can get married and all those things. So coming back to the question, I think I heard through the whole corporate story, and I'm sitting in the best panel right now where I need money. Okay, either out of compulsion or emotion. Okay, CSR can happen out of compulsion or emotion. The marketing can happen out of emotion, mainly. I need money. So, you spoke about why money is coming at the elite and how did it go down. Even if you look at cricket, where the lot of money, almost 85% of the market share in India is about cricket, the grassroots or the lowest possible area is not there where a lot of money is. It's still staying at the top of the corporate level, or sorry, the commercial level. We are still working, Gaurav also mentioned about the same thing. The pyramid in Indian sports is still the regular pyramid, where everything has to go up from top of the pyramid, that elite, then amateur, then competitive, and then participative. We have to move whatever the dreams that we have for 36, forget 36, any dream that we have for us to be moving or have a fit nation which is mentally and physically fit. For that, I think the pyramid has to be inverted. We cannot expect any medal. Firstly, the Olympic is not played for medals. It is qualify, compete, and then complete. These are three things which it's called a creed of Olympics, right? I think if I may be wrong, but it's first you have to qualify in the best of the best. Then you compete and you complete. Here we are just looking at completing and getting a medal. The moment you actually invert the whole pyramid, let kids or anybody to come and play at the participative level. Let them participate. After that, put some competition. Then you get the amateurs and then you get the professionals. So at the same time, the corporates, right? Bridgestone, I've been following Bridgestone for many years, staying in Pune, following Bridgestone for many years with PV and before that as well, right? The thing is, it is elite level which is happening. Nothing against it. It's as long as you are investing in sports, I'm happy about it. But what is happening is there are quite a lot of badminton academies, but the focus is on PV. For Bridgestone, internationally is involved with football. Sorry, not Bristol, the counterpart. But Apollo is involved with football globally. What are they doing for Indian football? Not much. Only getting associated with the one ISL team. The thing is, we have to look at the whole. If you are putting something, use the marketing money and use the CSR money, and start associating. You are talking about the future. The next buyer for you is not going to be a 40-year-old who you are spending on. It is that 15-year-old or 13-year-old who is going to be wearing that Apollo jersey or the Bridgestone jersey or any corporate jersey and flaunting it out. So that is where I feel personally we struggle. Luckily, in my club, Rising Pune FC, we have almost 500 kids playing from the age group of 6 to 18. We have a girls team. Our girls team member is the captain of Maharashtra team. We have got a lot of accolades in last 4 years or 5 years since we started. But it all started with one first person. When my son got through Reliance at the age of 12, that time we had only 15 kids. Suddenly, his poster came up, and after that, I had 80 kids in the next 6 months. Now, today, I have 5 kids playing in Reliance, 10 kids playing in Bangalore FC, 2 playing in Chennai FC, 1 went to Manchester United for a special camp. I have 520 kids playing in the span of 4 years. If parents can see this and they want to, again, what Gaurav said, right? They want kids to play, go out and play. That is required. But when that is the thing, the corporates and everybody has a chance to look at, mera next customer yahan baitha hua hai. And we need those things to play, and it is not coming. It is unfortunate. It is not coming in the way it's supposed to come in.
No, thanks, Siddharth. In fact, it's let me go and pose the same question to maybe Leena and followed by Neelam after that. One of the conundrums which we often think of is that, the investment in a child or a youth, the journey of sport takes a very long time. Sometimes, aaj ka bacha, kal ka youth, like 10 years and so on. Which brand or entity will have that patience to watch those outcomes which come out? So I would rather have a 100-meter sprint going at this time and see podium finishes. And so is CSR an answer? I mean, again, it's the same corporate, but whether it's a government is forcing the hand partly by saying social development, and sport is one good element of that. But do we think that CSR could be one answer for this delayed gratification that sport or play seems to offer before you can actually say sport has made a difference to somebody's life?
So thank you, Parminder. To me, it's all about how, as a corporate, you look at sports. I mean, like I've said before in the morning, we had a wonderful discussion, a roundtable discussion, like viewing sports not as an outcome or an end in itself, but as an approach or a means to achieving other development goals is what, we need to seriously think about. Because as typically for us, it's not just a tick box activity under Schedule 7 where, you are eligible to spend amount in sports. And given that, spending in CSR spending in sports is about 1% of the total mandate. So it's not a significant amount. I mean, nothing. I mean, it's just a tip of the iceberg. And if we are to tap into or diversify, talk about, how organizations can access more from corporates, then we have to expand our lenses and view sports as an approach to make other developmental impacts. For example, education. I lead education and child protection within our CSR group. And we have called out sports as a major enabler to achieve educational outcomes in terms of, increasing attendance in schools, reducing dropouts, achieving behavioral outcomes in children, increasing learning outcomes, just to be able to make children participate. It's not just about winning. I mean, that's another goal altogether. If a child is excellent, encourage that particular child till the time, he or she is able to win medals. That's one way of looking at it, but don't limit yourselves to that. Instead, look beyond and see how many kids can participate in an activity. So use techniques like, we did partner with, for example, a magic bus, wherein a life skill education curriculum, sports was embedded in that. And we use techniques like, sit, breathe and think, like it was called SBT, a very powerful tool for a kid to, just play a sport and then sit and relax and creatively think about, what impact did it have at the individual level as a group, and then finally, at the school level, what are the benefits that you can bring about or see changes therein. So sports is transformative. So let's look at it in terms of, achieving other outcomes like health, which will again enhance productivity, not just at an individual level, but also for the nation as a whole. So countries like, abroad, like Australia, Canada, they've made far more progress by taking this view. But for us, it's like work in progress. Some states like Odisha, Haryana are moving towards this direction, but a lot still needs to be done. And if we kind of, triangulate our approach, say a health goal or a skilling goal or an education goal is achievable by the medium of sports, I think half of the work is done. That's my view.
Thanks. Just counter on that. You mentioned 1 or 2% spend of CSR going to sports. How much is Bajaj's spend going into sports?
If you look at sports...
representative of the larger pie, or you're different internally?
I wouldn't say we are anywhere in the top 5, even otherwise, even if we look at education, health, we are not there. But I think we do realize that it's important. And yes, because the leadership also matters. So our CMD has been a sports person. So, there is importance to it. It may not be very significant because, again, CSR is not the solution to all our problems, because we need that government buy-in, and we can do pilots. But scale up and replication is something that, at a systemic level, it's important for the system to recognize and amplify our models. So thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Neelam, just extension of that, how do we then increase the spend that a sport gets from a corporate pie, CSR? Firstly, do you agree that CSR could be an answer for the longer journey of a child that we speak of? And secondly, how do we increase the share?
Thank you, Parminder, for having me here. I think a lot has been said about, what can CSR do and why we should do it. Solution, I think there is no one particular solution. I wouldn't say that only CSR is the solution, or we per se, the trust is not CSR for us, it's philanthropy for us. So there is, I think, more the merrier. It's important that everybody, all different stakeholders who are responsible for development of a child, when we talk about, all of them need to come together and do their bit, and see how we can actually support each other in this journey. It's not possible for anyone to have, work on all different levels, as we say, as you hold a child right from grassroots or to play on the streets or right up to the elite. There are different strengths, that are the different priorities that you need to develop at each different level, right? So each one, I think every organization or every institute who's working with a child needs to define for themselves what is it their priority is, what is it that they want to do, and probably look at partnering with other institutes who have different priorities. So everybody is important. So yeah, if somebody is sponsoring PV Sindhu, as we said, right, it's important because that's what is creating the interest and motivation for thousands of other girls to participate, right? But yes, we need to have, if we can't be in one sector only. I think we have to be at different levels, and each organization defines that level for themselves and then sees, okay, if I'm working at this level, who's the other one in the region who's working at a different level, and how can I work with them together rather than trying to work in isolation. I think one of the reasons why we are where we are, though we have been working, we have many organizations working in sports, we are still not working together. And I think it's one of these summits can help to get people together to understand. We don't even have time, or we don't even have knowledge about who's doing what in that, right? And it's important, I think, to share this information and see if there's any kind of collaboration possible to be able to do more. So CSR definitely, it could be one of the things which can definitely help do things, even if they want to say, for them, if branding and marketing is one of their priorities, it's great, they can be there, but then how do we have other organizations working in different areas to see how we can funnel them and say, okay, I'm at the grassroots, I will be, my focus is to ensure participation, providing opportunities. There will be outcomes of it as a byproduct. I always say, if you do the right things at the grassroots, you will find talent. and then you will find them. How do we create that pathway? So there could be JSW, there could be those who are at competitive. How do I pass on my players to them so that they can get a chance to develop those players? So collaboration, I feel, could be the key.
Sure. No, on collaboration, Mridul, the invisible hand of government, in fact, if I were to pool all the money which private capital, 20,000 crores plus be getting spent, is like not even maybe the budget for one block in India for government. So that's the biggest invisible hand. How do we get government to, is government what kind of a role it plays in unlocking the resources we're speaking of? What can it do? Second, Neelam mentioned coalition. How do you see that helping the cause? Sports coalitions in this case.
Thanks, Parminder. I think it's working, right? Yeah. So I think it's important to understand when there is investment in sport, especially in elite sport, it is coming from a place and an understanding that you put money into elite sport and therefore it will trickle down without fostering the right conditions for it to trickle down. And I think that's where a lot of the opportunity for government intervention and government fostering the kind of infrastructure, the kind of culture that is needed. Because if you see, there is not a lot of evidence to support that there is a causal link between success at the international level trickling down to participation. And that's why you see a lot of different governments taking that step. For example, if you see what was the legacy of London 2012 and is perhaps one of the most successful examples that you can use as an Olympics legacy of hosting legacy is that of participation. They had a clear plan in mind that we will use the Queen Elizabeth Stadium like this. They had a plan that we will give it to whichever club wants it. Of course, West Ham got it. But there was an idea that this will also be used for recreation. This will also be open in terms of a facility for other events. And also in collaboration with that, there was the idea of smaller sports facilities being open to use. And I think a lot of the conversations in the previous panel, were about how there is a need for safe spaces for people to play, for a lot of girls to play, for a lot of women to play, but two also in terms of infrastructure. We had examples of the pickleball courts under flyovers. There are also examples of basketball courts under flyovers. So it's less a question of sport. It's more a question of reclaiming spaces, also a question of how do you create the conditions and the infrastructure for people to be able to have the choice of participating in sport. And it's not just about sport, it's also about giving opportunity for physical activity in everyday life. So that's where the role of the government is essential, where you are working towards creating cities that are more walkable, that have active transportation options, for example, that you can bike to work, or are enabled by things like active workplaces, where it's about, is my workplace enabled to make me cycle to work? Is there a shower or a changing facility? Or do I have options for recreation at the workplace? Do I have a gym membership? Things like that, and so on and so forth. And where the role of the state comes in is that, one, can you incentivize all of these options? Can you incentivize private players to invest in a lot of these options of making workplaces, transit, making schools and higher education institutions more sport and physical activity friendly? And that's where when we talk about the 2036 Olympics bid, and I think this was a very recent conversation, even 3 days ago, we saw our Minister of Youth Affairs and Sport really emphasizing that we would like to see, as part of the next 10, 12, 20 years, the idea that we can be more productive, we can be healthier on a daily basis. And therefore, when we talk about having inverting the pyramid of it's not about elite sport at the top, but it's about participation at the top and really trickling down to elite sport. The more people you have playing at a daily basis, the more people you have playing sport for fun, there is a larger talent pool that emerges out of it. And I think if we reverse that causality, reverse that pyramid and see it as more of not a pyramid at all, but more of just more people playing, and therefore some choosing to also participate in elite sport and taking that up, I think that's a more sustainable way in which the government helps. So investing in participation themselves, for example, and there's a lot of now movement through the new education policy. There is a recognition of sport playing a key role in education, or we see Fit India's interest in promoting sport. And many state governments, and I think some things I will also talk about in a bit later. But you see Haryana talking about sport for development, sport for social impact, Odisha doing the same. Andhra Pradesh at some level is also incentivizing mass participation and rewarding those who participate rather than just those athletes who they develop. So if you see the change in incentive structures, if it's to mass participation, you will have more people playing. If you invest in infrastructure, you will have more people playing. If you incentivize CSR investment in sport, you will hopefully get that 1% up, because that's also a key idea of getting more investment in more people playing. So it's just all about creating the right conditions.
Just on that, Mridul, I think it's an important point you made. I mean, the inverting the pyramid, I think it's a fairly, let's say for a moment, thought experiment, we inverted the pyramid. We're seeing the base of the pyramid is the most important investable asset that we have in the country. Who changes their funding behavior? Just because we said that's, in fact, all of us are saying the same thing, that that's the most important. But does Bridgestone then start spending money there? Because I think the reasons of why Bridgestone is spending money at the apex is well known, because that's what gives us the mind share, all that, right? So I'm still not sure if we have the answer. Even if I were to build mind share, the base of the pyramid, the most important part, why should and how should the funding behavior change? So Deepak, to you, would then marketing spend and CSR spend being viewed together by a corporate could be an answer for it, or you see something else there?
I think when you get into corporates, you need to start with what is their objective. I mean, their behavior, their spends has to be in line with their objectives. So it can't be objective that we start with this kind of pyramid and that. So just to add to a bit of the discussion, Bridgestone, as their CSR spends, have spent actually a lot of money on grassroots programs also. So people like Avinash Sable, who was in steeplechase finals, is a product of Rajendra sports program, the athletics program, which was actually sponsored by Bridgestone for 3 years. So there is a lot of money which goes in those kind of grassroots programs also. But the brand visibility comes from these elite, high-end kind of PV Sindhus and all that stuff. Also, after spending for 3 years, when I try to calculate the return on investment, etc., it's easier to find the ROI on the visible programs versus the more grassroots programs. It's not that it's not there, but it's difficult to calculate for a brand and a corporate. So that question or issue will always remain. How do you calculate the return? Now, for a social enterprise, it's different. For CSR, it's different. For government, it's different. For a corporate or a brand, it's different. So you need to evaluate everything with the context of those objectives. That was just from a corporate standpoint. Yeah.
Well, thanks. I think we are running short of time, so I will just take maybe quick inputs. See, we have some school leaders, youth in the audience as well, parents as well. If you have any points from your side for them, it'll be helpful. Maybe Neelam, anything that you could, around the discussion we are having, because this is an important stakeholders for us, and we may not have time for questions, but I hope some of us stay back for lunch and there will be time to ask questions as well.
Well, to this audience, I mean, you all are here, so that means that you are interested in sports. So we got you at least where we want you to be. And that's the most important part, that to be interested. And another probably, I mean, as we talked about, right, we an area for us also, and then for you also to also explore is, we look at sports, the children are playing sports, they enjoy, then the expectations slowly start building up, oh, you can be competitive. And then at one level you realize, my child is probably not going to be at the top. So then you say, okay, now stop. Ho gaya. So you've done, now stop playing, right? So one is to also think back and talk about what it has, what the sport has done to the child. I mean, not look at only those aspects and all the other developments or holistic, but when we talk about how much it has helped the child. Looking at somebody you're comparing with somebody who has not played sport. Right, so there's always going to be a distinction. We all know that, but we don't talk about it as much. So that's one, and probably also explore options where the child can continue to be in some way a part of sport, which could be recreational, which could be just play for community, fun, or even a career around sports for that matter, which again is not at all talked about. I mean, it need not be a complete 100% career. You are completely dependent upon sport. You can always do part-time sports. There's so many options there which you can, in some way or the other, be associated with sports, which is healthy for you, which is what is going to, add more viewers, add more participants, and then we have more branding, because it's all again a chicken and egg, right? The more the people play, the more the people are engaged doing sports, you'll have more support coming in. So,
thanks. Siddharth, you want to add on the athlete's journey and areas beyond that?
Yeah, so I'll just go on the pointer side here. Firstly, as we understood, the kids are here, that means you want to play. Parents has to understand one more simple thing. If you can wait for your kids to be engineer till they are 21, give them chance to play. They are not going to become champions overnight. You have to have the journey. So please enjoy that journey with them. A lot to learn for you when you go with them on the field. So don't forget what you learn as a parent in that journey. Everything is teachable there, and you will learn a lot. Once an athlete, the kind of mentality and the attitude that develop, that stays for life. The current things about depression, trauma, anxiety, all those things, I'm not saying it is not there, it is very much there. It has to be respected, but at the same time, it can be taken care of if how mentally strong that you start becoming while playing that sport, a particular sport, because you will be hitting the ceiling all the time. You will start comparing, मैं इससे अच्छा क्यों नहीं खेल रहा हूँ. Don't compare your shoes to your friend. Compare the way you play with your friend. That will get more benefits out of it. Third thing I'll just talk about is the career. Earlier, I grew up in 90s and I was a decent in the badminton player and had a shoulder injury, and being from doctor's family also, there was nothing I could do, and my playing career stopped. I didn't know what to do. I had nothing to do beyond playing sport. But now if I look back, I'm founded at MBA Sports Management Symbiosis. That is one thing. It's phenomenal opportunities. I can see a few of my students sitting here from MBA who are doing an amazing career for them in sports. Now Symbiosis also started, it's not Symbiosis only, a lot of institutes have started a BSc course in the sports, not only BBA, but sports science perspective. Understand, because one athlete, one elite athlete actually employs 18 to 20 people around that person. We have to understand that kind of, so the more elite athlete that we grow, the more and more ecosystem around sports is going to grow. There is going to be, forget event, marketing and other side, the performance, the coaches, the technical side, non-technical side, mental side. We have psychologists sitting here, mental side, physical side. There's a whole ecosystem around one single athlete start developing. I worked with MS Dhoni for many years. One MS Dhoni can actually take care of around 15 people around him just to be, and nobody's telling him how to play. That is the beauty of it. Nobody's telling how to play, but everything around him can be managed. So there's so many things can be done. So career the best part. People ask me what is the best part happened to you when I shifted from IT to sports. I said I'm not working any day. I'm just living what I wanted to do. And everybody has that liking. Everybody has a potential to do it. Don't consider, I think वो 3 का dialogue है ना, गाड़ी छोटी होगी, घर छोटा होगा, लेकिन खुश रहूंगा. I know every parent is scared about or worried about their child's future, but the thing is, if you don't give a chance, how will it happen? Everybody is born with that plank, right? It's only with us that we can make it to springboard. So this is the push that is required. Other than taking them on the field for the football or cricket or table tennis or badminton, live this journey, give them a chance. It is very much possible. So sports as a career beyond playing also is very much possible, and I changed my career at 35.
Sure. No, thank you for that, and thank you for this wonderful inputs. I'm sorry, we don't have more time. We could go on forever, but I think it was wonderful inputs, and I'm going to summarize with glass half full or half empty. So I'm thinking it is half full, and there is a upside. And as we see some of these discussions adding, and I think we will summarize some of these inputs and see what needs to be done to move.
Add a couple of points on what Neelam said, like building coalitions. So I think where we need to, or how we need to look at it is like, how do we move from sharing interests to sharing objectives or goals, probably, as CSRs or as philanthropies. So that's important, creating that. And the other thing is for, kids and teachers and other stakeholders in school. I mean, I feel they should be able to create a demand. If they are able to demand that, sports is something and we need facilities, be it facilities, a good teacher, time or space. So please demand and then supply will take care.
Since everyone's adding 2 bits, let me also add. So I have 2 school-going young kids, so I grapple with this kind of issue very often, every day. Thankfully, both of them are in some degree of sports. So very briefly, I would like to say for parents, healthy mind lives in a healthy body. And sports is a great way to build and maintain a healthy body. If we start with this premise, I think everyone should be playing. And then you can, if you are good, then you can get into many other careers and stuff. But this could be a way to at least start and be there. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Wonderful having you over here, and a big applause for my co-panelists. I invite Rhoda Mehta to just do felicitation of the panelists here from Leela Poonawalla Foundation. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Wonderful panel again. So we will take a 10 minutes break, and so I'll be back. So next up, we have requested for a short session of Mridul. You heard him, Mridul Kataria from Sports and Society Accelerator, specifically on the policy making and governance, role of policy making governance in sport, because as we heard, there's a larger context of how does policy making influence scaling of sports, or will have Mridul speak about that. Mridul?
It is working. Hi, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you've had a good break so far. And as Parminder pointed out, I've here to talk a bit about the sports policy, sports and physical activity policy landscape, and how at SSA, at Sports and Society Accelerator, we're trying to frame some of those conversations and sort of take you through that journey of what's there and what we're trying to do to really move the needle around policy within sports and physical activity. Right here. So once I can have the slide up, I can walk you through it. Can we have the slides up, Nishan? Cool. It should be working, I hope. Yeah. So one of the key things that we do, and when we try to frame the conversation around sport and physical activity, is really about explaining the problem in more ways than one. Where the problem is not just about sport, where the problem is not just about physical activity or elite athletics, it's more about what is the status today that what we're dealing with, and what is the landscape in which sport can help and can be a key contributor to, where moving every day, where being physically active can lead to many different outcomes. So the first way we try to frame that is really talk about what is the landscape around our sedentary lives, what is the way in which India is living today. And the numbers you see here are very, very stark. And these come right from the Indian Council of Medical Research, which estimates that around 200 million people affected by diabetes and pre-diabetes, 300 by hypertension, and 600 million affected by some kind of obesity. Now, we're not saying sport is the only solution to that, or being physically active is the only solution to that. It is a key contributor to that. It is a key solution that we do work with, and we have a low-cost, effective solution. And when we move forward with that, we compare it to what are the statistics today around physical inactivity in India. And the connections are very, very easy to make. When you talk about 74% of our adolescent population is largely inactive, is not meeting the WHO standards of physical activity, it's very easy to draw that link of why, one, our sedentary lifestyles are leading to so many non-communicable diseases, but also what is the easy solution is to try to get more active. And when we talk about adults, it's the same thing. Around 50% of our adults are also not meeting the WHO set criteria of being active. And we account for all of that. We can see a picture coming up where you talk about how sedentary lifestyles lead to certain problems, and how sport and being physically active can really contribute to addressing the problem. It can be a key solution to the problem. And that's where we talk about framing the conversation with the state, framing the conversation with policymakers, and make it really about not just sport, but about physical activity, of which sport is a big, big part. If you play a sport, great. If you are physically active on a daily basis, also great. And that's where, when we talk about this, the solution is not that difficult. You give roughly 2% of your time to physical activity per week on average, and you can be a part of the ISSP-R revolution, as we'd like to call it. And one of the terms we're really working with and trying to popularize is sport and physical activity. ISSP-R as a whole is an umbrella term, where it's sport plus other forms of recreation. It could also include other things which are not considered traditional, conventional ways of being physically active, like, even dance. But that is definitely a part, as an umbrella term, of that. And that's what we get when we try to frame these conversations with government, and we try to highlight where the problem is much larger than we think about it, and the solution is right there in front of our eyes. Now, what is that we do at the Sports and Society Accelerator and within this policy landscape? SSA is a non-profit Section 8 organization which really works with 3 different verticals. One of them is largely engaging with government on policy through strategic intervention, but also trying to create pilots which really are proof of concepts around sport as a way of being, as a way of course, countering a lot of these non-communicable diseases, being healthy, and really contributing to also other social outcomes. That's one of our verticals. The other bit is really informing a lot of this work with government and in general. One of the ways in which we see how, and the conversation why around sport shouldn't be limited to just sport, is also about creating evidence and research around it. One of the key ways in which we do that is really work on awareness. We work on highlighting organizations such as Sports Village who are doing some great work in getting more kids to play, getting more people to be active. And our work really revolves around gathering all that evidence and presenting it to government, presenting it to policymakers, presenting it to the larger population in general, to really create that culture of acceptance around being physically active, around being inculcating sport into your daily life. And the third one really is around working with the ecosystem, creating that collaboration, creating that collective voice around popularizing sport as a medium of living, and also talking about its socio-economic benefits, which I'm sure all of us are really aware of in terms of what all sport can do for you. But really, it's not about the people who are convinced, it's the people who are not convinced that we need to get on board and really inculcate into that fold of creating a demand for better and more policies around sport and physical activity. And really, it's underlined by the idea of convening all of this together, convening non-government organizations, policymakers, and everyone else, academia, and the general population, and creating some public goods which can be easily accessible, but to also inform a lot of the way in which we can not just work with government, but also become champions in our communities of promoting sport. So it's really a movement which is from the ground up at all levels, where you can involve private organizations, the public sector, the general population, and government as well. Now, when we look at the landscape we're working in terms of what is the policy landscape, some of it was touched upon in the last panel. It's really about, when you look at how sport and physical activity can be popularized, it's being taken into account in many different countries. For example, if you see, England has now set up a sport body, Sport England, to really support grassroots-based participation, grassroots-based programs, and there, as a government, as a government mandate, is really moving away from the success they've had in elite sport and really focusing on participation. And that doesn't discount any elite athletic success. It really adds to that. It really adds to how creating a culture around sport can really add to not just elite success, but also really harnessing the benefits of sport in daily life. Same with Australia, same with Canada. All countries who are considered elite through their sports policies and through their performance historically in international sporting competitions, really recognizing that sport and its benefits can really be taken beyond the playing field and can affect other outcomes like education, like health, and so on and so forth. And when you look at that, that's the international landscape we're dealing with, which is also to some extent, being replicated at an Indian level. And that also happens also at the state level as well as the central government level. How does that happen? You see states like Haryana, who've, in their more recent sports policies, have really emphasized the idea of sport for development, sport for social impact. Because they understand that when you can use sport outside the playing field, when you can use sport for the enormous potential it has, you can really create not just a culture around it, but also about a healthy population, which has obvious benefits around health, education, and so on and so forth, and also productivity in many, many places. It's the same thing with other states like Odisha, which has this focus on elite athletics, but is really moving the needle also on how we can have these benefits trickle down to all sections of the population, and really trying to include as many people in the fold as possible. Same with Andhra Pradesh, where they do incentivize mass participation through their Krida Vikas Kendras, which really emphasize that it's not just about performing well, it's just about participating and trying to inculcate sport in our daily life. And that's the kind of policy landscape we're dealing with. To some extent, 20 different states have some level of mass participation, elements of mass participation in their policies. But to what extent, again, that's a separate conversation that we can have, and there are more resources we could also share on that. At a central government level, we do see an increasing recognition towards that. How is that so? I don't know how many of you saw our Minister of Youth Affairs and Sports' little snippet just 3-4 days ago on National Sports Day, where he emphasized that where National Sports Day is an opportunity to recognize how we should be active in our daily lives. How it's not just about playing sport for performance, but really about using its enormous benefits in terms of being not just healthy, but also a lot of the evidence shows that sport can really help you learn other skills. Sport can really help you be productive at the workplace. Sport can really help your grades in school. And really emphasizing that when you're playing sport on a daily basis, when you're being physically active, that's a conversation that can really amplify the benefits that you can get out of sport. So there's that movement that's coming out now, and also becoming a part of a potential bid of the Olympics when we talk about 2036. Because what's happened in the last 20 or so years is the IOC has also mandated hosting cities to really propose a strong legacy plan. What is after, what post the Olympics? Because we've seen in the past, and even more so also in the present, many examples of there is not enough happening post the Olympics, because we would like our stadiums and our public infrastructure and all sporting infrastructure to be heavily used, but for some reason or the other, it is not. And therefore, the 2036 Olympics bid really is an opportunity which is being talked about as a way of creating that legacy of participation, as a way of creating that legacy of harnessing the benefits of sport and physical activity, and really figuring into the policy landscape that we have today. Now, when we talk about this landscape, there are many different conversations that can be had, but one of the ways in which you deal with this or you work through this is making the conversation more than just about sport or more than just about physical activity, which is where some of the work we're trying to do in terms of active frameworks, active schools, active cities, active educational, active transit, active workplaces really comes into place, where all these 4 different settings are really key areas of focus when you would like to talk about promoting sport and physical activity. And the government, policymakers have a key role to play in all of this. How is that so? If you have more of a government mindshare towards making our cities more equipped towards physical activity and sport, you will have more and more stakeholders coming towards that. Private stakeholders, public stakeholders, really talking about that mindshare and really understanding that there is some benefit involved when you have a focus of the government towards these things. Now, what is an active city? What is an active workplace, active school, or active college, or even active transit? These are, of course, separate questions altogether, which I will be more than happy to address in a, perhaps if you have specific questions around it. But really, active city is really about a city which is equipped to be able to give you the opportunity to participate in sport in more ways than one. When we talk about sporting infrastructure integrated into city infrastructure, or we talk about transit that is enabling you to bike to work or walk to school, all of those things are creating the right conditions where you can be active in your daily life. What is an active workplace? Is one which encourages you to integrate sport into your daily life in more ways than one, whether it be a gym membership, whether it be active breaks at work, even standing desks, walking meetings. All of those are very small levels, small scale interventions that can really have a large impact, as we've seen through much of the evidence on your productivity, and really reducing the rates of absenteeism, for example. And those are examples that we work with when creating all of these frameworks. And even the same with active educational institutions, because the impact of sport on a child's life ought not to just be limited to the PE session. We believe it's a lot more to do with what happens outside of the PE session, where they can really take forward the idea of activity in their daily life and really harness the benefits in terms of educational outcomes, the benefits of just learning more skills, which we've seen, of teamwork and so on and so forth. So the conversation in policy then becomes about how do we create these, how do we deliver these frameworks? Because if we work with government, if we include policy makers as a key stakeholder, as we've done, they have the capacity to be able to engage communities, to be able to engage in terms of awareness and create awareness around it, but also build capacity of other stakeholders as well, and build capacity in a way where you can have more and more people being invested within this policy landscape. So to really sum up the last few minutes of the presentation, we're dealing with a policy landscape that is slowly but surely moving towards increasing participation. It's then about framing the conversation around what the problem is, and that it's much bigger, and the solution is of integrating sports into our daily life is very, very simple. Of course, at an individual level, but how do you foster that? How do you foster the conditions for that is where a key role of the government comes in. So that's a small bit about the policy landscape and some of the conversations we're having around sport and physical activity within this landscape. And if you'd like to find out more, you can feel free to scan the QR code and learn a bit more about the active series and the active frameworks that we've been working on. Also have featured some of the organizations, much like Sports Village, in creating the frameworks around active schools, for example. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, but also if you're free to scan the QR code. I don't know if you have time for questions within this session, but you can feel free to catch me around here. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mridul, for bringing up the broader context of policy and governance around getting everyone to play. And I think within that, the schools play a central role. We all know that, and that's where, whether it is the school leaders, administrators, policymakers, parents, children, all of us converge together, and that's center of action, center of community that we have been speaking of. So our next panel is going to, I think, focus more on that. And we will need to set up the chairs. And so while that is being set up, I would, and requesting Saumil to moderate the session and have him also invite the speakers, maybe introduce the speakers while the panel is being set up.
Okay, so while we get the housekeeping in order, interesting panel coming up. It's got an interesting variety, and you can see the names, or hopefully you can read some of the names, but we got a combination of two wonderful school leaders who have a ton of experience in enabling play inside schools with all the constraints of parents and fees and space and time and academic pressure and so on. We also have, that's Shubhra ma'am and Jashvir sir who are here. We also have a parent, Rajendra Kamath, who got his twin boys to pursue football seriously and got them scholarships in the US, and has now started a venture helping other parents get scholarships, sports scholarship for their kids in the US. So that's an interesting parent angle. We of course have a very important physical education voice. Dr. Anand is here. Because that's the voice that is very often not heard in these conversations, but that's the base, that's the foundation, and we want to just understand from him as well what his learnings are. And we have Varadayini, who's coming in from a sports psychology perspective to talk about both the good and the not so good part about participating in sports, and how from a psychology perspective what can help the whole process of getting kids to play. And of course, last but definitely not the least, my good friend Pradeep Pillai, who also runs Orange Slates and Academart that helps schools and institutions enable kids to play through sports infrastructure and sports equipment. And just a conversation around that whole process of managing constraints, buying behavior, what's going on, what are the motivations. Because these are nitty-gritties of actually making stuff happen on the ground. So we have school leaders, we have parents, we have people who are trying to convince schools how to do it, and we have a PE head who's actually implementing it on the ground in school. So good, we are set up. So if I may request the panelists to please join us. Jashvir sir, please. Shubhra ma'am, Dr. Anand, Pradeep, Raja. I was told I need to sit like this. Okay. Gaurav? Okay, first of all, a great range of experiences and expertise here. I'll try and do my best to make the most of this wonderful experience. First of all, thank you everybody for being here. So the context is around how do you create this larger sense of play for holistic development. And all of you bring in very different expertise. Let me start with schools first, because over the previous sessions we all talked about how schools are seen as this focal place. And while everybody thinks schools should solve all the problems, schools have their own set of problems, right? And so I want to maybe start with Shubhra ma'am to maybe help us understand how you have enabled play in the different schools that you held leadership positions in, and how you kind of handle some of the challenges that come your way in getting kids to play in schools.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me here. And
To begin with, I have faced a lot of challenges as a leader, especially in terms of making parents and teachers aware. And how I did it was, we've already understood why we need to do it. There was this particular school in Mumbai where a child of grade 10, he was going up to play for the district level and eventually the state level. And the parents were totally discouraging him from attempting that. It happened to be just 1 month prior to the board exams. Now, being in a CBSE school, CBSE gives a lot of credit in terms of the weightage for sports, though I would say it's not enough. The weightage given to sports in the scorecard of a child has to be increased. So this particular child was hell-bent, and because of that, he was not paying attention. He was missing his remedials. He was missing his, after the prelims, the classes. The mother and the father came to meet us. I was then the vice principal of that school, and it was a tough task to ensure that the child was not studying either ways, his mind was totally concentrated on his games and sports. So it was, it took me time. I sat with a counselor and I first tried to counsel the parents instead of the child, because the parents came to me asking, "Madam, you should counsel the child." But I felt the parents need counseling, and which I started with, and eventually I sat with the child and see, I have convinced your parents. Now you have to promise me one thing. You do well in your exams as well. Now you go and play. We will give you the attendance for those days, and CBSE allows that. As per the rule, let all parents and students sitting here should know, be aware of that. You get an advantage even in your board exams if it falls within a national level or state level sports performance. The child gets an alternate day to appear for the exams. So this was already there, but the parents were not aware, and they simply felt that it's a waste of time. And the child, he said, "Ma'am, I promise I'll do my best." And believe me, the child was a 60-70%er, where we brand children as, A+, B+ category and all that in academics. He went on to play, he won, and he comes back and he tells me, "Don't worry, ma'am, I'll not let you down." Because I had told him there's a lot at stake. If you don't do well, I have taken care. I've tried to convince parents and even the school principal, who was against the idea. And I was told that you're spoiling the student. Anyways, I took the risk, and believe me, that child did not let me down. So this was one small thing. Eventually, when I became a school principal, I ensured that CBSE provides one period of sports, physical education period, compulsorily on a daily basis. Now, all of you sitting here, tell me how many schools you've seen doing that actually in the timetable. It doesn't. So first thing I ensured was make a timetable which ensures PE is compulsory and nobody compromises with that. It cannot be taken away by the remedials. So what I did, wherever remedials were required, I made them stay back, gave them another, in the orientation in the beginning of the year, I told the parents, please be prepared. If your child is not doing well in academics, be prepared to pick up the child 1 hour later. Do not send your child for tuitions and stuff like that. We will take care of it. So that assurance to parents helped them come around. They realized that the school takes the responsibility of academics without hampering physical education. And physical education teaches a lot of life skills. Let me tell you, you learn team building, you learn resilience, which is a need of the hour. It is stress-free, a place where the child can vent out. You spend yourself, your energy, your untapped energy gets spent in a positive manner instead of a child becoming destructive and throws things around or tantrums. It is taken care. Let me tell you, parents, I have not gone through much of research. With my own experience, I've seen children calm down. You let them play for half an hour, 1 hour after school or before school, whenever possible. you will see the drastic change. And in my current school in Nashik, Meena Bhujbal School of Excellence, what I've done is, and I'm thankful to my management for giving me a free hand at this, that's very important, which in a lot of chain of schools was not happening. I've worked with Podar, Narayana, Vibgyor, it wasn't happening. But here as a standalone school, I got a free hand to do it. The students, if we feel a child has a talent in sports, okay, of course now we have tied up with Sports Village. I am getting that right scientific environment for sports, which was not possible with just one PE teacher who's an MP.Ed and probably not able to do much, because most of the academic teachers would ask for a proxy period, take away their periods, borrow, beg and do that. The PE teacher would feel left out or would feel that, unka to kuch kaam hi nahi hai. It is secondary to academics. So what I've done now is I've invited parents to come and play with their children. I've done organized games at my school where parents along with their child, they pair up and do a lot of sports, and then they realize it's so much fun because they had missed out when they were children.
So getting parents to play is an answer?
Yes, getting teachers and parents to play, let them realize. And you know what, NEP talks about experiential learning. This is learning for parents and teachers. Let them experience and see how much fun. And then they come back when they are tired. They will not switch on a TV or a mobile, They would rather eat healthy, go to sleep. They'll be tired properly. So that's the answer.
No, this is wonderful. Let me bring in Mr. PE here. आपका नाम बहुत आया है. तो what's going on in schools? PE as a everybody agrees physical education is very important. Everybody has long things to say, but actual daily school routine, PE classes get substituted, right? PE very often is doing everything else except PE, right? So what's going on? What is going wrong? क्या कर सकते हैं?
See, basically, first of all, I would like to thank you for bringing up this topic. And as we say that let the kids play. Every child should be on the ground and should develop his abilities. But unfortunately, most of the schools do these practices where the PE is taken as the proxy period. Let's see the other side. Let's say see how the children can come on the ground even if the proxy periods are being taken. We practice in our school. We practice integrated physical education. So we integrate PE with other subjects, wherein the children come down in the maths period also. Where we have the Pythagoras theorem. The PE teacher, we teach the children how to draw a Pythagoras figure on the ground where we have the ground marking. And then we integrate with the science teachers also. We integrate with them for teaching the Newton's laws. We make them play. We have them have the starting blocks. Show them actually. So if you push the starting block a bit harder, how faster you will be out of the blocks. So this is another way of bringing the children onto the ground. And even if some of the other proxy periods are being taken, not in our school, but it's the case of the other schools, this is a way where we can integrate PE and we can see that the children do enjoy the maths the periods also, the science period also, along with the PE periods. Of course, physical education is the lifeline of the school. Every child loves to play PE and loves to be on the ground. But in case of the schools, which I would suggest the principals over here, if you could do these kind of things, the child would really love to be on the ground.
Thank you. Let me ask Jashvir ji. Specifically, I know you have your own experience around getting kids to play, but just to build on this conversation, PE साहब बोल रहे हैं कि ये सब करने से हो जाएगा. As a school leader, how do you think about this? How will parents respond?
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you. That's a wonderful question. I'm a proud principal who loves sports. I come from Haryana and I grew up playing in my childhood in the muddy fields. That's my brief introduction. I'm not a very popular principal in Pune because of the approach that I have towards Right. Anyway, and the principle is like a cheese sandwich, whom parents and management love to eat anytime they set their eyes upon. Right. So, Shubhra ma'am would agree with me. Now, I'll try to report right from the ground zero, from the perspective of the students, what happens there in the school. I'm going to include you also. You've got a wonderful idea. So, see, the problem, as I see, and the challenge, and how we deal with that, and I've got a question for Sports Village too. So, the problem is in connecting with the parents. Parents won't understand for obvious reasons. I won't talk about it, because they are preparing the kids to be successful entrepreneurs, or these Baijus and these Akash and all, engineers and all. Oh yes, all that nonsense. So that they are obsessed. And I have worked in 8 schools, but Pune is the worst in this case. And parents are very hard to convince. Anyway,
your popularity is going down.
I haven't gone to Mumbai yet, but let me get to the point. So that's the period. So the influence of the decision makers in whatever we are talking is very, very important. We are talking about holistic development. I think that's the discussion point. I've got a problem with this phrase. Let me tell you why. Almost every school, not almost, every school begins with a vision statement and mission statement. And you would agree. If you don't, then you try to explore a little bit. So in the vision statement, by default, the word holistic comes, because that's what the parents want to read. But tell me, even a lot of parents sitting over here, how many of you really made a choice to choose a school based on the vision of the school? Even though holistic development is mentioned, they say it. That doesn't actually happen. CBSE has got in its vision statement, it doesn't happen. Holistic, I include sports, drama, theater, performing arts in that. That's the holistic development. Now, if it is a holistic development, then we ought to have in the curriculum, English is compulsory, maths is compulsory, science is compulsory. I'm talking about grade 10. Social studies. Why not sports? What's wrong with that? A kid will find himself happier in the company of a PE teacher. आपने देखा होगा कि, and I used to get jealous when I was a high school teacher, that a kid would come walking, and I was at a senior post in the school, right? Head of department or something like that. And the child would choose PE teacher over me. And he would touch the feet. That's the respect the PE teacher carries. And I saluted them, and I salute you today. That's the connect. Now every situation that happens is in collaboration with emotional connect, intellectual planning, and physical competence. This is what I think. For example, if one has to rescue a cat from a tree, see how this works. One has to be emotionally connected. Oh, there's a cat, there's a life I have to share. It comes naturally. Second is the intellectual planning. How am I going to do it? Am I going to climb? Would I put a net? Shall I call my friend who would help me? I cannot reach that branch. So the planning goes in the background. And there ought to be a physical competence that your body brings. So I know that when physical competence is ingrained with intellectual planning and along with emotional connect, that is what you call a holistic development, which should happen in the background. Now let's keep it aside. Parents. It's difficult. There ought to be a structured curriculum. Now this I realized when I went to USA and I taught there for 9 years. How come US, China win all the gold medals? There ought to be something in there, not college, in something happening in the school. It's compulsory. Kids love sports as much as academics. And the wonderful thing is, parents support it. My son played basketball in grade 8. I was working in the same school. And then over the weekend, I wanted to rest, I wanted to read, write, but he forced me to go with him and watch him playing soccer 120 miles away. I said, no way. I said, do not talk to me then. Then I asked my wife, what happened to him? Look at all his friends, parents are going. So there is a social pressure on him. But really? May he better win.
Did he go finally?
I did. He forced me, yes. I did. And then I got into yes, this is a culture. That's how it happens. He did not win, but he did not stop telling me why he did not win and what he can do the next time on the back of the journey. Then I realized there is a bonding that develops and there is a connect that goes on forever. It's not playing sport, but what sport gives you after you have played. Now, as I said, Mr. Majidar, there's a problem in the curriculum. CBSE will not. Even the NEP that says, we already have PE, and you know what happens in PE. I mean, we have come to an extent where we had to integrate physical education in other subjects. I mean, just see how bad it can be. I mean, we are forced to do it. The curriculum should force us to do it. It happens in IB, International Baccalaureate Program, that I taught for 4 years. Then I realized, and there's an integral part, what is called a CAS. Creativity, action, service. Forget about creativity and service. Action means you have to play, which means you not only play, you have to, there's a CAS coordinator, will keep evidence of your physical achievements over a period of 2 years. And if you do not reach that level, you do not pass CAS, and if you do not get passed, you do not get diploma. It is so. The curriculum holds the school, the teachers by the neck. You cannot move left or right. Same with Cambridge. But I'm sorry, it doesn't happen in this way. So what do we do? We come to the point. What do we do? Well, you build your own curriculum. Man was saying, yes, absolutely. So you make 1 period compulsory. Okay. There are 30 students or 40 students, 4 sports, they go over there. You ask the teachers to prepare a lesson plan, prepare a curriculum. This is what you are going to achieve. It's a very structured, you have got a very structured one, absolutely. And then you have to show the improvement, the physical accomplishment, whatever has to be measured, reported. And you better have, and it should be, an exclusive PTM where there are only PE teachers, of course, non-performing arts, and make it so valuable as academics. And this has to come with the principal. There's another dimension to it. There are 2 kinds of schools here we didn't talk about. One is the day school that we have in Pune. And they're boarding schools. It's much better and doable in boarding school because parents are not there. The kid doesn't go to a parent. He stays there. You can do whatever you want. Yes, and he won't talk.
The answer to get kids to play is to keep the parents away.
Absolute, no. Part of it. But you get, I'm coming to that. So it's easy in boarding school. Yeah. I have been a boarder, so I know. I put my kids in boarding school because I wanted to be away from them. And it's a challenge.
Sir, it's a record हो रहा है आपका बच्चा शायद देख रहा है.
Is that man doing that? Anyway. But challenging, no, it's okay. It's challenging in day school because the dispersal is at 2:50. The mother is at the gate at 2:30. Now what do you do with that mother? So what you can do is during the time when the mother is not there. So you include it in the classes. And you train your teachers and all. And if your management is nice and is not eating the sandwich, you can bring in sports village. It's done. Why you have to do anything like that? Now I have got one question for Mr. Gill and Mr. Majumdar, who have been doing a lot of blah blah blah. It's expensive.
I give up.
It's expensive. It's beautiful. I can take it any day, but I have got management and I have to convince them. There's a time when you bring in PTA, the members, you know, the selected one, get them on your side and include in the vertical agenda and make them talk to the management on your behalf. Yeah, you have to be smart, because unless it is structured, you cannot make it, and it ought to be in the curriculum. These are two things which I think should be done immediately, ASAP. I declare emergency.
Okay. Thank you. That was key sandwich. I think we're all waiting for lunch, but very interesting. Let me get Pradeep in. Pradeep, you also work with schools and you knock on schools' doors trying to convince them to buy sports stuff. While we convince them to buy sports programs, you try and convince them to buy sports infrastructure and equipment. So what's going on? What are you seeing?
So I think Jashvir ji and Shubhra ma'am have given one perspective which is very valid. I think the problem is parents. So starting with the assumption at the beginning that all stakeholders are on the same page. No, it is not. If I put an extra class, I'm telling you the challenge from the school, and then I'll give you some case studies. If there is an extra class for maths, the parent would be really happy. If you get the child to stay back for sports, I'm a part of parent groups. There is all these kind of messages which come कि school normal time पे क्या करता है, बच्चों को नहीं खिलाता है, ये वो फलां. I mean, it becomes like a massive thing. But if it is an extra class for maths, a brilliant school, awesome school, they don't question कि maths teacher कर क्या रहे थे and all that. So that's something which happens. So I think what he said, and he was very tactful in terms of withdrawing, but I think bluntly said parents are the problem. Okay, having said that,
There are the solutions also.
So until unless that mindset changes, all other stakeholders will continue to have these kind of conversations, but the needle will not move that much. Now I'm coming from a background where I help schools set up school infrastructures. I work with NGOs who are into school transformation, setting up again infrastructure. So one of the things which I can talk about from the book also, what both of you read, written, beautiful book. Access, I don't think is a massive problem. Access is there. Whatever are the infrastructure available, the utilization of that is in single digits. So 90% of the infrastructure available is still not being used. Now let me give you examples of it from a ZP school. That is a Jila Parishad schools, outskirts of Pune. They don't have too much of a ground or anything, but they have built this beautiful system because the Sarpanch out there wants children to play. So there is a bus available, children go to the nearest ground, and there are 3 to 4 sports teachers. So one of them is the actual sports teacher, there are 3 more volunteers, and they make the children play at least twice a week. Okay, possible. Now let me talk about a CBSE school in Pune, where it is like ma'am and sir were saying, 40 minutes every child will have to play. Up to grade 3, the child will play at least 4 sports. After grade 3, the child has to choose between 2 sports. Like I think one of the panelists in the morning was saying, 1 team sport and 1 individual sport, or they can choose 2 sports, any of the 2 sports. But 2 sports mandatorily the child has to play. So 5 days a week, 3 days 1 sport, 2 days 1 more sport. And there is daily 40-minute session for this. Now what they also do is they take the assembly for physical fitness also. Right after the assembly, there is a 15 minutes physical fitness for all the children. So that's a CBSE school. Inside the school curriculum, they do this. Now the challenge for the school, I think what everybody has been speaking about is with one PE teacher, okay, is this possible? Or 2 PE teachers, is this possible? Not possible. Because you have maybe 45 children in a class, you have an international school, maybe less, but most of the schools will have between 45 to 50 children in a class. So they just take them to the ground and the children are playing, wouldn't work. You need to be able to split them into smaller groups, into smaller functions. Otherwise, what's going to happen is some of the children who actually enjoy playing and who would any which way be playing would be the ones who hog that time. The others will be sitting back, and slowly, this whole thing becomes like a free period. So, two things which from my perspective, what I think we need to work on is, one, report cards. Sir has already mentioned, can we add sports as a part of the reporting structure for parent? Absolutely, it is there in the holistic report card. Can that be made mandatory?
20th August they made it mandatory.
Brilliant.
This year.
Awesome, ma'am. The second thing, on the board, when you go into a class, when you are going for the report card, there will be the topper's name written. A lot of schools do this. Rank 1, this percentage, 2, 3. Can you have the sports guys also put up there? At least 3 names. I mean, you just need the chalk and that board is already there. So if that culture can be, and it's a change. So if that name is there, as a parent, I'll feel pride ki, okay, my child's name is there. I would like to promote. So if that is possible, I think it's something which can work out.
No, thanks. This is interesting. Rajendra, I want to come to you. You are here as a parent, and parents are not currently in good standing.
I know.
You're standing.
Of course, absolutely. Thank you so much.
So, please tell us as a parent your journey of supporting your twin boys through sports, football, balancing the worry about academics, आगे जाके क्या होगा, and then of course what you're doing now.
Yeah. So let me flip the whole question and give out a couple of names, right? So we all know R. Madhavan, the Three Idiots wala gentleman, right? His son is in University of Virginia now, swimming. Born in India, full scholarship. Tejaswin Shankar, we might have heard about that gentleman in high jump. University of Kansas, full scholarship. Recently we placed one girl, Khushi Umesh from Pune, PU, 11th and 12th, Princeton University, full scholarship. There are enough and more examples which I can quote and names which are there, my own boys included now, of course. And then Siddharth son Arin, who's in Reliance Young Champs. I mean, these boys, these kids have pursued their passion, obviously the skill level has been there. They have taken it to the next level, the amount of hard work which goes in. Now, all that is required as a parent is just do the logistic support. Everything else, they're all fantastic in studies. I mean, if somebody can reach Princeton after being a national champion in 200 meters under 18, the amount of hard work which has to go in to become that athlete, to spend every day. She has spent countless number of hours on the field, on the track field. She was unwell. She went out to a different university. She's tried everything. Parents have been supportive. Ultimately, parents' काम is the easiest. Just be there, support the kid, do the logistics, pay out the money wherever it's required, and the job is done, right? So I think for us it was no different. The boys were interested, they wanted to pursue. The easiest job for us was the logistics. I think, the journey, it has its own ups and downs. The kids sometimes, they don't do well on the ground. They come back, they just need the space. We don't need to hit upon their head that, kal assignment baki hai, you need to finish that and that. They are smart enough. So I think the only thing we need to do is give them space, give them the support, and I think the job is half done.
I want to just, before I come to Varadayini, this balance of sports and education, this narrative that if it's sports and academics is dropping, I think there are enough case studies of people who have balanced both.
Absolutely.
So, as a parent who should decide that, I think you're maybe trivializing the significance of that achievement to be able to say, I trust my kids to do well enough in academics while they're pursuing sports. Because very often the parents' question is coming from that concern, ki khel to raha hai, but please take care of academics. So how did you manage that?
So I think, again, we need to have guardrails. It's not as if we just leave them nilly-willy and let them do whatever they want. So you have guardrails as long as you're able to finish your assignments, as long as you're able to, and I'm not expecting the kids to come first in the class, right? There are enough and more studies which have shown that kids who are able to pursue a sport and study, they do much better in life. I'm not saying as compared to the ones who don't, but they're no less. So if we have the confidence on ourselves, on our upbringing, and we provide enough guardrails for them to be able to successful in sport, the studies follow. For us, so my twin boys, they are now in the All-American first academic category. I think that is a GPA 4. So, and they were in Reliance. Reliance Young Champs has one of the the grind they go through on a daily basis on the field itself. Plus then go to the school and complete their assignments. I think it is huge. So as long as the guardrail is there, I think, I don't think that's much more you can do.
That's interesting.
Can I just add to this very quickly? A good question, how to balance sports with academics. I believe that if you've seen the movie Coach Carter, so that's a wonderful approach. And I say it so assertively because I've seen this happening in school where I worked. So it was very clear. The school policy was that as I said, the students love playing sports. So that is far more important for the kids than academics. That's what happens in the US. So, but before a team would go out to play, represent the school, the list of their grades, current grades would come to the teachers 7 days before or something, and sent by the coach. Coach would know. And if anybody is falling below that line, well, the coach will not include him or her in the team, period.
All below the current performance.
Current performance. But there's another thing. Will not. It's done. The coach won't say anything. The student knows that he cannot make the cut. Fine. There's a line drawn. Now, that it becomes a collective effort and responsibility, including the coach. Now see how it's shifting, including the coach. Coach wants him because the star player. If he or she is not there, team is not going to lose. So there is a motive involved. Coach will take it upon himself to make sure the child studies, earns extra credits, and catches up that line before it expires. So again, it comes to a collective effort, but it has to be a part of the school policy, accepted by all the stakeholders, parents. Parents accept that too. So
very interesting. So you're essentially saying the children are motivated to play if they're good enough in school.
They should be motivated enough. Yes, they would
study enough to be
absolutely.
Which is pretty much what you did.
And vice versa. Because that's a dimension, that's a dimension of the school. So that's how it happens. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I think it's a very important statement about. All of you are essentially assuming trust in the kids. That that I am taking leap of faith. I trust you to do well. Go play, but
yes, and there is good news also. Since we have been banging on the heads of the page, but let me tell you, there is good news also. Things are changing, and that also because of the wonderful page that I have. I wish you were there living near my school, and I had your kids. I would have taken you on my PA, right? So it makes me feel very happy, contented to meet and talk to such parents. Trust me, more than you, I'm happy to meet them.
Yeah.
Him also, sir. He has put his child in.
Yes. I'll meet you just after this, right?
Sir, Rajendra.
Right. So the good news. I was visiting a school, and when you walk to the corridors and school, they put up values, core values. Yeah. We believe in this and that. So I saw a value that I had never seen before. It was written celebration. Now, it didn't make any sense to me. Well, we have values like cooperation and things like that. Celebration. So I got hold of somebody, a mid-level administrator. What does this mean? So he looked at me. It means celebration. Celebrating what? Everything. Everything what? Achievements of whom? Students. What kind? All kind. But only achievements? No, even the efforts are achievements. But how do you celebrate? We announce, we show it everywhere. We include it at every place. But why do you do so? To create and enhance the happiness quotient of the school, and to create a culture that no matter what you do, this way, that way, academic, we are going to celebrate it along with you. And that's a beautiful team culture the school has built up, and more so the contribution has come from the parents.
Nice.
That's yeah.
No, wonderful. And then if I may come to you, it looks like there is a school psychology at work, there's a parent psychology at work, and of course kids psychology at work. So please help us with your views on this whole getting kids to play from your perspective.
Thanks, Somil, and thank you everyone. Thanks for inviting me here, and lovely perspectives here in terms of understanding the ecosystem, right? I just want every one of y'all, I know it's a panel discussion, but just close your eyes and think what exactly when you close your eyes, just think about what is success and what's failure in sports or in physical education. How many of you all saw the first thing as a medal? Yeah? Many of you all?
Many of them are not raising their hands also.
Or like a podium, or anything. Okay. So, see, sports, physical education, and everything, like the culture that we build around it. And it's not only in India, it's like everywhere. It is on success is equal to winning. Okay? And when a parent puts a child in a sport or any kind of physical activity, what is the first thing what you expect? Is certificate to aana hi chahiye. Isn't it? Okay. Is this how a culture is built? Possibly not. A sports culture, and I think I'll also borrow something from what Mridul spoke about, like the outcome in life is health. When I saw the statistics, I was scared. Like, that's a scary statistics. Like, when you have so many health disorders, sports, the medal may not matter. Okay? Development of culture, which is the ecosystem, directly impacts here and here.
I want to just interrogate you on that. This longer term goals are very good to say, but they're very difficult to, catch hold.
No, but there is what she's asking about the culture part. I'll explain with a simple example. I called my parents to come and play at school on sports day and other days, many other days. The mothers come with a sari and heels. So is that the culture? I mean, you don't understand when there's a wedding, they dress up in their finery. So you're dressed for the occasion. But when it comes to sports, they're not dressed for the occasion. So that means it was just time pass for them. They didn't take it seriously. So after that, the next event I did, I'm talking about a new school. I'm a founder principal of that school, which just started last year. I had to put that as a footnote in the circular, kindly wear sports shoes and sports clothes. So that culture where we allow women to wear sportswear very openly, very happily. They don't don the attire. I had a tough time in Aurangabad in one school in the interior of Maharashtra. The students of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, the girl students, the parents didn't want them to wear shorts. Didn't want them to wear cycling shorts. How can they play in a skirt? I mean, I'm not saying that you cannot, but what is the need for a girl who's not even a proper grown-up girl? What is the need? Why are you worried about? So I made the dress code as common, unisex. Let it be track pants and t-shirt for everyone. So the culture is built around small little things like that. We don't have to make a gender difference everywhere on a sports field and all. Thank you.
Okay, so culture is one bit which kind of comes around the athlete, right? And what it impacts is, like, say, for example, first question I want to ask parents and even PE teachers or anyone, like, if suppose no, just think about this. So the first question you ask an athlete after they have won or lost, that's usually winning के बाद, अरे congratulations, that's the first thing. But हारने के बाद क्या होता है? अरे क्यों? Why did you lose? This is the first question.
What went wrong?
Yeah, क्या हुआ? आज कैसे हारे? Right? Now this is slowly impacting what? The identity or what they start relating sports to. Only winning and losing. And that's not sports. That's not a...
There's a question, I think.
Can we take questions on this? I don't know. Parents raise their hand.
Sure. Does somebody have a question? One second, but go ahead.
Oh, okay. So that's not what you want when you're building a culture, okay? And why is culture important for me as a psychologist is because it impacts the mindset, okay? And so let's come to the closer circle of the culture. The parents, in sports psychology, we have a theory called the parent, athlete, coach triad. Okay, the important 3 people in an athlete's life when they are starting to play a sport. And this is not even when they are competing. Okay, it's someone who teaches them sports, someone who teaches them general values, and them. Okay, now since we are in Pune, I want to ask everyone here, how many of you all visit Tekadis? Tekadis are hills in Pune. Okay?
Maida.
Yeah, Maida. Those who don't know. Okay, it's a part of Pune culture, but it's also a very good way to stay physically active. Okay, now I try and make sure I take my daughter to the Tekdi because me being from Mumbai, I value it even more. I'm like, acha, Mumbai mein to nahi tha, idhar to hai. Okay, these are small ways in which kids also pick up, okay, my parent is going, even I need to go. This is a part of building sports. Or like a physical, mindset, and also as the kid looks at you as a parent, okay, my parent is doing this regularly, maybe this is a norm, I need to do it as well. Okay, because I know parents who say, "Arey, मैं रोज उसको लेके जाता हूँ to physical gym classes, but he's not interested now. What should I do? That's why I need your help." Okay, but when I ask them, what is your, do you include sports in your daily routine? Most of the times the answer is no. Okay. So I take them to class, I drop and get them back, but I don't play sport. Now, when the parents start doing it themselves, there is a culture at home. So the culture starts at home. Then, of course, the school. And then, that whole ecosystem spiral goes all the way up to the government, because the first thing we blame is the government.
It's very easy to blame everything on the government. But then I'm sure when we heard people like the invisible people of the behind the government, they are making policies. But it is for us to lap it up and do something about it. And talking about the government, my management is slightly part of the government, and I have requested them a lot of things. The first thing which they did last year when my students first stepped into the school, they observed every child and they realized, they were physically weak. So when they are physically weak, they cannot perform any kind of physical activity, unfortunately. And that is something I didn't think about. They did, and they told me, "Ma'am, let's start with a program of a health drink or a health food every day, free of cost to all children." Okay, now this is something that is the cultural change. They're realizing how important it is to do good in academics also if you are physically fit, physically healthy. Good food, good nutrition. They invited Apurva Kumbhakoni. She is a physical trainer or a nutritionist for PT Usha. So we invited her for a parenting workshop to tell them what to feed their child. Junk food out, how to ensure that regional food and seasonal food, fruits, vegetables are important, and how it helps. Just like when my child was, now my son has completed engineering, when he was in school there was a cartoon series he used to watch, Popeye the Sailor Man. The Popeye would eat a box of spinach and become strong. Okay, I used it up through that. That was what we had available in those days, but these are ways parents can ensure their children eat healthy. So eating healthy is the first step to build a culture, dressing up appropriately, and as I said, experiential learning. Let the parents come and play with the child and feel happy after playing, because they have missed out on their childhood. Let them come and play. Maybe they need that. Maybe then they need that platform to come and play. Give them that platform. Maybe the schools can do it better, because you have minimum four PTMs, open house, in a year. Use it as a sports day. for parents. Let them play. Teachers, the worst comes when a lot of math, science, English, Hindi, Marathi teachers, they say, ma'am, can we take the PE period today to finish our syllabus? Okay, so those teachers also need to be groomed. As Sir rightly mentioned, this is how the culture has to change. Sports is not an option, that's an importance.
Sure.
We have to bring that.
Thank you. So we are kind of tight on time. I'm going to request 30 seconds each. One thing that you want or you think we should do or should happen for more kids to play. One thing. Let's start with you, sir.
Can we have one?
Since we are on the government topic, the making the policies, as we want the kids to come on the ground and play. Unfortunately, the government has said that there should be no physical education teacher for up to standard 7. So if there is no physical education teacher, how the kids would come on the ground and play? So I think my request to Mr. Mridul would be to making a strong policy and to help support the government.
You are the answer
that we should have physical education teachers in the schools, which and also it is compulsory physical education, as it's said in the education policy, that physical education is the fundamental right of the child. So every child should come on the ground and play.
So you are asking for a PE teacher and the time for the child to
Yes, absolutely. One period every day should be there allotted at least for the child. Yeah.
Pradeep?
I think after today's discussion, I think sports for girls, specific sports, and how do we get more girls involved in the sports?
Okay, Rajan?
Okay, this is my spiel, okay? 15 seconds. So one is parents need to let the kids play, let them pursue what they want to do, not stop by telling them, it's time to focus on academics. There are 5,000 plus colleges in US spending $5 billion on sports scholarship. There is an option and I'm there. Thank you.
Hello? Okay, I got it. A personal message to the parents.
Sir, आप तो नाराज हैं हमसे.
No. I have to pat them up, right? So my father wanted me to be an engineer. I agreed. Okay, fine. So he used to keep me asking every 6 months, "Are you ready?" Okay. Till I came to 10th, and then he asked finally. It was my birthday. So you are ready to be an engineer? I said no. So what do you want to be? I don't know. But I'm telling you, that might be your thing, but I don't know. So you want to do what you want? Yes. But you don't know what is. Then later on, I thought, my father was always pushing me for an arranged marriage. Whereas I wanted to have a love marriage. I went for my passion, my love, that's literature and language. I think I'm doing pretty good today.
Well done, sir.
That was very interesting. Okay. So if you're asking for one, give me a concession. I'll make two.
Sure.
One is giving credit points, just like academics, credit points for sports. And to be mentioned mandatorily in the holistic progress card. See, I don't know where it came from that the government has not made it is mandatory. Sports is mandatory every day.
Maybe the actual implementation, policy level pe hai, but
policy wise there, implementation is in our hands, how we do it. So we can definitely do it, whether it's parents or teachers or schools or management or principals. And we need one very important thing which I've noted down during today's discussion was when it comes to girls playing sports, they may fall down, they may hurt themselves, break bones and stuff like that. They may not get married or blah blah blah, all those kind of nonsense around that sphere. We need to have sports insurance for athletes, because I've seen a lot of cases when athletes after they become a winner, or even if they're not a winner, they have no other option left when they grow up, and by the time of 20, 21, 23, whatever. What if they fail in sports at the highest level? Say the case of Vignesh, or what, is there any insurance? How do we do it? I have heard about
That's interesting.
Yeah, because I have understood. I was recently going through a biography of a Kerala girl athlete of Olympics. She was forced to undergo, not forced, maybe it's mandatory, sex determination test, and she was branded as not a woman. Yeah. So what happens? She is picking up bricks in a small village, and the media identifies her. So there is no insurance. What if you fail, you go up to that level and you don't win a medal? What happens next? There is no fallback policy. Thank you.
Just going to answer that one question, how to get kids to play. I think, of course, you go play with your kids. That's the first thing. And I'm going to differ on the report card bit, but make sports or physical activity, like I said, just walking to the hill, as a part of a process. It's not an outcome. I don't want the parents to say, "Arey, wo aage ja raha, tu aage bad." This happens. I am a parent. I know. Go quickly. She's reaching before you. That's not a competition. You just need it to be a part of your lifestyle. So make sports a part of your lifestyle, and that's what I guess we are somewhere not up there. Thank you.
Wonderful. Enjoy the journey message. Please. Thank you. Thank you to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you. And happy birthday, Sports Village, once again.
Can you do the honors? Give them one.
Yeah, naturally. Also, because our first people. You understand? Yeah, mandatory. Please, you do that. Also, come forward. Yeah, come forward. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Enjoy it. Thank you. I hope it
Thank you, panelists. I think very gripping. So I'm just going to invite next session Nishant to take us through the award segment. Nishant, please.
Thank you, Parminder. So after having listened to all the stakeholders in this endeavor of getting kids to play, which is right from parents to school leaders to corporates to brands, etc., I think now it's finally time to recognize the single most important stakeholder, which are the kids themselves. So as part of Get Kids to Play Summit across India, we plan to recognize few students of our partner schools across cities who have excelled in sports, but the most important thing is who have also balanced their academics throughout their pursuit of excellence in sports. So I'll start with the school's name. First up is Euro School Wakad, ICSE campus. Param Tanna, Preksha Biradar, Siddharth Chakrabarti, Arya Bhatt, Pratham Varang, Yajna Sapkal, Dhruv Mahavar, Nishka Parashar, Rishit Jaju, Vaidehi Gangurde, Soham Biradar, Madhura Zende, Kanish Kumar, and Raina Jimmy. I request Shubhra ma'am and Jashvir sir to kindly please come up on the stage to facilitate the students. I request Saumil and Parminder to kindly escort them, please. Thank you. I request Mr. Jocelyn, who is the coordinator for Euroschool Wakad, to kindly join us on stage. I request Prahlad to escort the trainers of this particular school to come up on stage. They are the people behind their success in sports.
Chinmay. Chinmay. Chinmay.
So our next school is Billabong High International School, Amanora. I request the guests to kindly stay back. You need to felicitate a lot more students. So Shayan Kashani, Diva Lalotra, Reyansh Patni, Akira Choksi, Viransh Duhan, Suneri Bhatt, Tanmay Ganji, Ishan Pandey, Shravya Patil, Kruthad Doke, Aina Philip, Aryaman Dash, Shanvi Gupta, Gurbani Kaur, Ridan Chabra, Arika Ganji.
Go one by one, okay?
I request the trainers of Billabong High School as well. Come on. finally, we have Gulnar, who is the trainer of this school. Yes.
It's fine.
Okay. So let's do the drill. The little ones, I need 4 little ones. Coming down. These yellow ones.
Chinmay. Chinmay.
Set. Yeah, already.
Chinmay. Again. Outside there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Billabong High International School. So the final school we have is Euro School Undri. We have Nirvan Kapre, Adya Mishra, Vedant Desai and Aradhya Ranjan. I invite the trainers of this school, Sandhya and Vijay, as well. So we have Euro School Karate nominations as well, but unfortunately due to their culmination event they couldn't make it. I invite Sachin to collect the award on their behalf, on behalf of Euro School Karate, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Shubhra and Jashvir, sir. Last but not the least, I think we should have a round of applause for their parents as well, for supporting the sports and equally giving importance to the academics as well. So thank you, parents. Now I hand over to Parminder for the closing address. Thank you.
Yeah, not much of an address, but just very, very exciting session since morning, and thank you for being here. I think let me just some takeaways from me, and we will have a broader summary of the key elements that came out of this charcha that we spoke of in the morning. So one clearly was the inverse pyramid. Earlier discussions we spoke of that, how that's the most important piece which needs to be addressed. And then choosing the right capital and resources. How do we, the lens of policy making and governance, and we spoke of that. Public goods also was spoken of, and lastly the school systems. I think we had such a riveting session around that, on the execution gaps that we have there, parent role of school administrators, teachers, policies, everything centers around that piece. And I think if there's one, then if that piece is fixed, hopefully the bottom of the pyramid also gets fixed automatically. And the resource constraint is the real issue, and I think we're not running away from that. And how do we get more resources moving towards what we think is important for us remains. And that perhaps is an issue of, when I say what next, that may be a element to attempt to do. So I think at this point, just would like to thank all the panelists, all the attendees, our Sports Village team to have come up with such a show, and parents, school leaders, administrators who are here on a weekend. Big thanks to you, I think, to making it all possible. Wonderful attempt from our side as well, in terms of the first version of our series of summits. And we are going to be back next year in the same city again with perhaps, after having attempted some of these elements which have come out of this conversation or charcha, and pick up the next vantage point with more what next. And hopefully with that the ball keeps rolling, and we keep growing, and the inverted pyramid then hopefully becomes a rectangle and not pyramid anymore, with equal attention on all sides. So thank you once again, and lunch is waiting for us, so I won't take much time. And keep playing. Thank you so much.